change has only just begun.
And we are live. I'm your host, Jason of Awake Souls, and I am joined by the limitless one, Ronnie Harris. How you doing, brother?
Awesome. Really nice to be here tonight. I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah, absolutely. We've got flat earth content for all of you. Tonight is going to be a flat earth night where we go through Mark Sargent. So he opened his Yap again and published a video, and we're going to go through how Mark Sargent says that we're in a simulation, and how he's a COINTEL shill that is set up to psyop that truth, because he's promoting a physical model of reality that is a total contradiction to the idea that we're in a simulation. So we're going to be going through some of his content tonight and showing y'all what you can learn from it, because we've gotten to the point now where these guys have to step on themselves. The positions that they've taken, they end up putting themselves in direct contradiction as they speak, where it's like one sentence contradicts the next sentence, and it should be really clear and obvious for everybody to see. So what are you seeing, brother? What's new in your flat world?
Well, I've seen tons of stuff. There's a couple other topics that I want to touch upon. Take this moment here. Everybody seems to be piling in the chat. We got Joseph Bender, Pamela, YD, the moderator, as always. Jerry is in the house. We got Becca Shine in the house. Everybody, Esteban is in the house. Brought up, we got Paul Revere, 1776 in the house, and super happy birthday to you, Seth. I hope you enjoyed your day. You didn't seem to be on social media. But thank you, everybody. Joseph Bender, again, super shout out to all the content he's been writing and creating. We got JC Sun in the house. We got DJ Jazz Willett. Thank you guys all for being here tonight. I don't know if you guys know too much about Mark Sargent and his Flat Earth Clues, but here on our channels, Jason and I have been exposing the fact that Mark was an agent right from jump, and his job was to shill impossible reality so that they could debunk the flat earth and then load the search results with debunkable content, which has been done. My other 2 points that I wanted to bring up, is Mark Passio and Bustin' Jest, or Justin Best. These two clown shoes, we'll use their words, are starting to step up and open up their yappers yet again. And we're going to be right there every step of the way. I'm going to be making a message to both those characters, Passio and Best. And you guys should be seeing a video coming out soon about those topics. But back to the Mark Sargent thing, the one character in all of the flat earth movement that agrees with us that we're in a simulation then opens his mouth with absolute shillery that's so easy to debunk. Like there's a dome with 4 corners and all these other nonsensical things that we've been continuing to expose for so many years. And I'm excited. This is a fun topic. I don't have to get angry. And I'm looking forward to Jason. I'm gonna throw it back to you. I know you've been working on the restored, corrected true names of the Creator and the Christ. I don't know if you want to touch upon that. I know you don't like me asking questions very much, but is there anything else that you wanted to start off talking about?
Yeah, so I am working on that video, and that's the update to the letter J video, where I explain the reason why we're using corrected pronunciations and spellings now. So the people that have followed along understand that we made that change, but we don't have a video to be able to share with people the reason why specifically. So it's coming along. I just need to finish up putting graphics to it and stuff like that. So I'd expect less than a week, hopefully sooner than that, I'll be able to have that published. Yeah, tonight's topic is on simulation versus the physical model of the Freemason New World Order AE map and model dome. So it's a fun conversation, I believe. And you mentioned that, yeah, Mark was the guy that when he came onto the scene, he had these like pre-packaged Flat Earth Clues videos that were released one after another. And what made him famous, the reason why people liked the videos, is because he said he was a video game guy and that he was likening everything in this flat world to being in a simulation or in a game. And he would liken everything to from a game design standpoint. That was like his tagline, basically. And so we found it interesting because we knew that we were in a simulation, and we were showing people the proofs, the ways that you can actually go out and do observable proofs that will verify that you're in a simulation. And then all of a sudden Mark flipped, and he became just 100% AE map and model dome guy and didn't talk about simulation for years. Excuse me. And so here he is yapping his mouth again, and he's going back to saying that we're in a simulation, yet still promoting the dome. So it should be some interesting content to go through. It should be a lot of confirmations for people that have actually been doing some research and see that the AE map model is impossible. And then you hear the things that Mark says. To this guy that is I had never heard of him before. He's YouTube verified. So he's a verified shill. He's got the check mark. He's got over 600,000 subscribers, and he treats Mark like Mark is nuts. And he's got this partner with him, and he treats Mark like Mark is nuts, and the people in the chat treat Mark like he's nuts. But we'll go through all those little dichotomies and nuances of as we get into the video. So I don't know about other topics. Like you said, we sort of wanted to touch on Mark Passio and Dell, and how Dell was going after Passio, and how this ties into you recently went after him. And it was interesting to see Dell get the overstand on Passio, and then like you said, also mentioning the Justin Best. So you probably have content coming that's going to tie those characters together. So we'll maybe just brush across it once we go screen share, right?
Yeah, well, and to just finish off the Mark Sargent rant, because I was an original FE truther. Again, you guys, if you've seen the Flat Earth Resurrections video, Matrix Decode posted a thread in a truther community that I was a moderator of. It was great. It was part of the We'll Do It Live team here on YouTube. We exposed a lot of stuff. And I knew that Mark was a shill right from the jump. So the Flat Earth Clues, his claim to it is that at 3 a.m. in the morning, he would just be woken up and he would just start writing the entire video, the first clue and the second clue. And, he ended the clues in a super awkward way. People were asking him, he made this nonsense statement up that there was this big secret clue, and he never came out with anything, right? And then what Mark's next claim to fame was the Flat Earth International Conference. He was the big supporter of that. And then they ended up making a documentary called Behind the Curve, where they absolutely ridiculed and mocked FE to the hilt as much as they could. Jason and I were calling it out well in advance, way in advance. Now, we weren't calling out who the woman that also made a hit piece against Sandy Hook was, the producer of it. All we knew was the cameraman, Daniel. Jason actually went and was filmed and was in the documentary, telling the only thing that was true, that if you become a flat earther and a truther, there's a good chance that you end up having issues with family members. And Jason was honest. It was your clip was great. So we knew that Mark was a shill right from the start. And the interesting tie was, before I knew Jason, I used to watch Mark. I watch all the shills. I watched Mark Passio too for all these years. Jason had emailed Mark trying to bring up the simulation discussion. And I remember Mark just, fluffing it off, basically not giving it the attention that Jason was seeking. And it's just interesting how the tables have turned. And now Mark is now coming back out as a simulation theorist while continuing to promote the debunked AE map and model. It's going to be fun. And I'm just looking forward to tonight. I'm thankful that everybody's in the chat having a good time. It looks pretty, cordial. I don't see anybody trolling, which is great. But hey, you guys want to troll? Go right ahead. Every comment helps, right? Oh, that's one other thing that I wanted to touch upon. My monitor. If you guys could just leave comments below the video. I don't like asking for help. It really annoys me to even say like hit a thumbs up or subscribe. Like we don't do that. We care more about the content. But I do notice with a lot of other YouTube channels, the people that are in the chat, like Seth and YD, I know YD can't even comment. Maybe none of you can comment, but if you guys could leave a comment so we can start to find out if we can even get comments, because I can't even comment on some of Jason's videos. It's gone. They delete my comment. So please, we're asking you guys on the other side of the screen to leave a comment, share a thought, whatever, even just a thumbs up. If you liked the show, if you get the podcast, if you get anything out of it, let us know. That's truly what I want. And
some
everybody,
sort of
it's Wednesday,
feedback, right?
Anything. The more articulate you can be with your thoughts and feelings on this discussion, the better, right? Let the rest of the world see your thoughts. I'm just looking forward to it. Jay, I'll throw it back to you.
All right. Well, I'll get a screen share going here quick. And
I can take this moment to let everybody know that we are your top search for news and information regarding Christianity, simulation reality, and the flat out proofs, only on the Yahawahashai News Network. Just trying to keep the sound going while Jason's getting prepared.
yeah, well, I've got your boy Mark Passio up on the screen.
Get me all mad. Want me to jump into the lion suit? Okay, so what we got here on the screen is this absolute clown shoe, Mark Passio, who goes around spewing this natural law nonsense, right? So he's going to be supposedly debunking he calls it the flat earth psyop. So he did a podcast on Facebook. He's blocked me now, I guess. And I showed up and called him out, said, Mark, you're nothing but nonsense, right? You're a joke. Come and debate me on everything you have on your channel, your entire arc. I want to debate each and every topic that you think is true, because it's just Freemason nonsense. And his supporters, I started getting all these DMs, boom, boom. My DMs haven't lit up like that in forever. All of a sudden, I got 4 people like DMing me, begging me to stop. Don't like do your own podcast. They were saying, like, I got them all still on my phone. And he can't come out and debate me on anything that he teaches. Okay, this is an absolute clown. Listen, you know, sometimes I get aggressive, but the truth is, if you're standing in the town square, you are supposedly preaching truth. You should never have a problem standing up in public and showing the rest of the world that you can defend those truths that you're trying to sell to people, right? I will, and I'm challenging you, Mark, and I'm going to be making a video, and we'll be getting to Justin Best in a minute. But the key thing that I want to point out here is this guy will go on for hours in a controlled environment where he knows who's calling, where he knows everybody that's in the chat. He cannot openly debate any of the psyops that this man sells. He can't, and he won't. So you'll be seeing more about the right? Sure, Anton LaVey ordained satanic priest, Mark Passio. We are going to continue to expose every single lie that you speak.
Yeah, so he's got the globe up there. He's got the Jesuit rays of light coming out from a globe Earth. So he's Vatican propaganda. He's got the New World Order, all-seeing eye. He's got it's got the light behind the eye. It's not only is it an Illuminati eye, but it's also got the rays of light that is Jesuitical, and it's got the Loyal Reef, right? And the Great One Work or whatever, which is Masonic. It's black and white, like Freemason clown. Yeah. So
or would he calls himself the White Church of Satan or something, right?
So he's out here flapping his mouth. What the F have you done? And we saw earlier that beyond the imaginary curve, Dell. All right, we've covered Dell in the past. Dell's the big tatted up guy. Let me resize this a little bit. All right, so Dell is this guy. If he was showing off his arms and his chest and stuff, you would probably see that he's got the same tattoos as like this artwork that Passio has. All right, he's into these types of symbols. That's the kind of stuff he's got tatted up on him. We called him out as a Satanist. He didn't like us saying that, but he doesn't worship the creator of the Bible. He's absolutely 100% dead set against religion, and he's like one of these natural law guys like Passio.
Yeah.
But what he did is he came out here against Passio because Passio had some guy call in on his show and ask him a flat earth question. And then Passio just put himself out on a limb defending that globe earth there. And he made himself look like an idiot, and Dell from Beyond the Imaginary Curve took the opportunity to overstand Passio and make him look like an idiot. So we found it interesting when you watch shills fight shills, and you know that one of them's carrying the truth on a certain topic, and you know the other one's fighting a losing cause. You see the bloodbath coming, and it's sort of funny. This is the time where we get to sit back and eat the popcorn and watch these guys chew each other up, right?
Excuse me. The key thing that I want to point out here that me and Jason just absolutely just laugh so much about, and we'll be getting to it with Bust and Jest, is the fact that so Dell and Mark, they don't believe in the creator. So Mark Passio will tell you the universe is his creator, right? And then spew off Freemason nonsense like fake hieroglyphic pyramidal stuff, right? And talk about natural law. And Dell will say he has no idea how we got here, but he definitely doesn't believe in the Jesuitical Mark Passio Big Bang infinite universe theory, right? He's against that, Dell. But Dell, in the same breath, will say that he doesn't know how he got here, why he's here, or where he's going. All he can do is just observe physical reality around him, which we agree with. Our entire model is based off of physical observations that you can go and make yourself, like clouds behind the sun and the moon and rainbows and stars, right? Higher than the stars, you've got clouds. So the key thing that I just wanted to point out was that Jason and I laugh at these clowns because we can absolutely explain to you the absolute finest tuning that this simulation is run by. We can explain how symbiotically, how the trees feed the air, and the people that breathe out the carbon feed the trees, and how everything came into existence. We can explain it to you perfectly. Everything, right down to the first created humans, the first created animals, and we can then map it out and show you how the de-evolution, because the first created beings were the absolute perfect creations, and we've been devolving since then. We can literally show you genealogies, timestamps, dates, archaeological evidence, physical things in the realm that you can go and measure that match perfectly with the explanation of how we got here, why we're here, and where we're going. We can do it. We can lay it out. I will debate anybody in the world, any theologian, anybody who's an atheist, anyone in the world, anyone, a solipsism person, or however you want to say that word. I will debate all of you and destroy you. And I will also use physical observable simulation evidence to tie the whole entire supernatural realm together. And we are going to be coming hard against these characters, because if you are out here as a truther, then you can't debunk me when I explain to you how Adam and Eve were the first created beings and so on and so forth. And we can lay it all out. You can't then turn around and say, I don't know how I got here, because I've just explained it to you. The ignorance is on you. You're the one who's not willing to do the research. So that's just what I wanted to get a warm up to let people know what's coming next from me.
Yeah, so that's interesting when you see a guy that totally takes the satanic position going after a guy who was, like we've said, ex-Anton LaVey ordained, like ordained by the guy, top level Satanist. This guy says he's a former Satanist, yet he preaches nothing but this natural law, and it's completely against the creator that comes from the Holy Scriptures, and that's the one that we're 100% for. So Dell and this guy are together on that one point, but Dell can just literally eat him up because Passio is a globe earther. And so we've gotten to the point now where if you want to have any credibility as a truther, you got to be a flat earther. Too many people know now.
Yeah, it's flat, right?
Yeah.
You can see it everywhere. The water alone proves that the earth is not a sphere. Water alone, guys, 72%.
So as long as somebody's aligned with heliocentrism, they're not going to make it in the truther community. They're going to get eaten up. And so then there was the just and best.
Best and just, or whatever he called himself.
Yeah.
Bust and jest. Right? You want to start off?
Well, I don't got a whole lot to say other than, with all the hair care products that you're using, bro, you ended up with a whole bunch of dandruff, and that to me makes you look silly. So wash your hair before you come on live again.
Well, I'm gonna stick to the Lord rebuke him. I'm not gonna talk about his face or his hair or anything like that. Even though the shaved beard is a huge improvement, in my opinion, and that's just my opinion. The long, big ass beards, but someone could turn around and say they don't like my hair. So okay, Justin Best, bust and jest. This guy is continuing to spew absolute nonsense. He's given up Christianity because he said that the New Testament was fake. Then he went on to debunk the whole entire Old Testament too. Right? So exactly what we said years ago, I think it must have been a year or two ago, as soon as this guy started debating the veracity of Paul's words, we said he was going to try to debunk the entire Bible. And sure enough, he's trying to. And his arguments are rooted in absolute nonsense. Again, I'm going to be debating this guy, or at least challenging Justin Best to a debate. He's way more intelligent than me. He's got his psychiatrist tests to prove it, right? I'm just Ronnie. I'm just standing here with the truth from the creator, and I want to debate him. And he's got all this stuff. What was he talking about? Asceticism?
Asceticism.
Was he calling it? Yeah. He wasn't even pronouncing the word correctly.
He wasn't.
But trying to be Saskapodalian, which isn't going to fly around me and Jason, because Jason's hobby is like understanding the spoken word of the English language. He's done a pretty good job at it. If you could see what he's done helping me. So again, all of his arguments, now he doesn't even know where he came from, just like Passio, just like Dell. He's put himself into the retarded land where if he can't debunk me and the things that the truth that the Father gave us, the inspired word that teaches us right from jump, from let there be light and creation starting to right now, I can explain it, and I can use physical, observable, repeatable evidences to back up everything that I say. So if he's not willing to come on to a YouTube debate, we can do it on his channel. I don't even care where we do it. And he wants to defend what he's promoting as truth while leading people off to the pits of hell. He should, his credibility is going to get weaker and weaker and weaker every time he denies the challenge. He is a very intelligent person. He should be able to destroy me in a debate over Christianity being real or not. He says he's already debunked it all. So we'll see what happens or comes from Mr. Best. But definitely Yahawahashai needs to rebuke this man. And you don't have the Shure mic set up right, bro. That's another tip. It doesn't sound like you getting your dollar out of your bang, bro.
Yeah, so I mean, his whole thing now, recovering from religion, hashtag RFR. His thumbnail is RFR #1, recovering from religion series. So
it's a joke. We were the ones who debunked religianity in the first place. We went through this. Jason was methodical in explaining why the religions are all wrong, right? The true way is through Yahawahashai's teachings and the holy inspired scriptures. It gives us everything, and everyone else is just going to look like clowns, especially when they're going to stand in front of the Father and the Son. What is he going to say? What is this clown shoe going to say? I can't wait, you know?
Yeah, well, this is the guy that, said he was a Christian, but wanted to join the military to go kill people because he's a bad mamma jamma. And he was in a TV documentary about Fallujah. And then he became some Torah observant guy.
Yeah.
And then he denied the scriptures, and look at him now.
To address all these major issues. And I just want to ask you, if you're going to post your comments.
Dude, you got to wash your hair. I wouldn't even debate this guy unless he promised to wash his hair.
I mean, I'm not worried about that. You know, I really want to expose the nonsense that he's actually trying to promote here. That's the most important thing to me, is just showing the whole world that who this man is and what his actual goals are, because he doesn't have anything anymore. He's worse than sinking sand. His foundation is built on air. This guy.
That's bad. So let's get into our main topic for tonight. And the reason why we're taking a look at this is because not this video. This video is what Mark published. And so this is what I was subbed. I had never heard of this Shaun Attwood guy. But on January 10th, Mark published this Flat Earth Clues interview 345 Shaun Attwood podcast. And I think we'll go through Mark's version of it because he's added a slideshow here. And it's really bad what he's added, super bad. And I want to sort of go through and point that out. But I want to show people that the Shaun Attwood, the YouTube verified, 681,000 subs. He's got 12,000 views, and this was Unleashed 41. So Mark was his first guest that he had on here. He had a couple other. And I mean, look at the way this guy's channel is set up. Tonight's guest, he's got Mark Sargent with his links here. Then his next guest has their Twitter, website, YouTube, First Wave, Trade Season. The next one, website, The Free Consultant, the YouTube, the Twitter, the LinkedIn. The next one, the Buy Me a Coffee, the Rockfin, the Cash App, the Venmo, the Patreon, the Twitter, the Ethereum link, and the Bitcoin link. So everybody that comes on this Shaun Attwood, this big verified channel,
excuse me,
has got a whole bunch of these types of links. They're all social media characters. They're all they want to be paid for the things that they say online.
Their business, right? Their job.
Yeah. And so they run in these networks and they promote each other and it's, sign up for this person and be a Patreon here and this and that. And so to me, it's just nothing but a pure shill network. And the check mark right here really should let people know that you're dealing with the wrong type of person. But this is where Mark goes and hangs out and ends up giving Flat Earth a bad name. So you can actually watch the video here where you can see Mark on camera, but I think what we'll do is we'll go through the slideshow and take a look at some of the slides that he's presenting as well. But I just wanted everybody to be able to see here that there is a chat to this, and you can watch it over at Shaun's channel. You can even join it, pay him some money, right?
Yeah, join, and you'll give them like $1.50 a month or whatever. YouTube takes 40 or 35% of all contributions.
30%, yeah.
30%. I'm surprised it's not 33.
So Mark says his videos are free to everyone, for everyone to use, and we'll go ahead and use his. Go ahead.
Is he not still podcasting on the Truth Frequency Radio with Christian Sharigio, who pushed the sandcastle faked hieroglyphic pyramids?
I don't know. I haven't checked recently to see if he's still on there. I guess we can check it out. But so we'll let this run and just stop me anytime you hear something. I'll be stopping it at different points. It's a total of 42 minutes. We're skipping the first 4 minutes. And this should be really enlightening to people that are paying attention. Check this out.
I believe that it was Pythagoras who first proposed that the Earth was round. He based his idea on the fact that he showed the moon must be round by observing the shape of the terminator. The line between the part of the moon part of the moon in the light and the part of the moon in the dark, as it moved through its orbital cycle. Pythagoras reasoned that if the moon was round, then the Earth must be round as well. After that, sometimes between 500 BC and 430 BC, a fellow called Anaxagoras.
It's inductive reasoning. Get a pause.
Yeah, so he's just reading some Pythagoras thing, right?
Well, yeah, I just want to interject here for anybody that's new to the Flat Earth movement. So an inductive reasoning argument is where you take two different things. So the luminary of the moon being compared to the shape of the Earth is inductive reasoning. It's like, because the pool balls are round, right? Your pool table should be round too. That's exactly the argument that they use from, was it Aristophanes or Pythagoras? Both very gay men, by the way.
Yeah, Pythagoras, the leader of a homosexual cult that was the first to suggest the Earth was rotating. And so here you have this guy. The guy that's talking right now is the dome-headed guy down here. And so he's spouting off a Pythagoras
Professor
thing.
X, we'll call him, right? Professor X.
Exactly. Or Dr. Evil.
And look at Mark. This in this screenshot right here. I know at some point he had it in front of his eye doing the one eye symbolism, holding the round mic that he's used. Like, listen, when I started in 2015, I had that mic. It's a Yeti Snowball. It's, you got to keep it right in front of your face. He's got the worst content, he doesn't look at his background, Mark. This is supposedly the leader of the truth or flat earth movements. He's holding a domed AE map model, which is impossible with what we actually witness in reality. Even Dell knows this perfectly. Dell can debunk the entire idea of the AE map model, right? And this is what Mark is on a verified 600. This is him and David Weiss go on these channels, and all they do is just drop the ball. They just go on there and do nothing but nonsense. If people don't get that, I know there's a large group of you on the other side of the screen, and this image right here is taken from a high altitude balloon, and it's actually been put in an editor and then rectilineated, right? This isn't the true, because there's a fisheye. When you go up and down, it swerves up and down, and you can tell they've edited that out. So not only are they being disingenuous about the shape of the map in the realm, but they're also using edited rectilineated footage. David Weiss uses the same stuff over and over. If you go and watch the original dog cam video of it, you'll see that it does rise up and down with the fisheye. Still as flat as whatever. But anyways, back to you. Sorry about that rant.
No, that's fine. Everybody, you're going to see that the slideshow that Mark presents, that's part of the PSYOP. We're going to be calling a lot of this stuff out. But right now we have this guy spouting off some Pythagoras stuff, and he's going to be waiting for a Mark Sargent response.
Pythagoras determined the true cause of solar and lunar eclipses and then the shape of the Earth's shadow on the moon during a lunar eclipse. It was also used as evidence that the Earth was round. Around 350 BC, the great Aristotle declared that the Earth was a sphere based on observations he made about which constellations you could see in the sky as you traveled further and further away from the equator. Right. And during the next 100 years or so, Aristarchus and Eratosthenes actually measured the size.
Eratosthenes.
All right, let's get your response to that.
Oh, my response to that?
Yeah.
All that aside, why did just about every culture in the world draw the same thing when it came to the cosmology? In fact, you could Google this anytime you want. Type in ancient cosmology.
Now Mark is using a bunch of nonsensical domed pictures like Jumbo Dweeba and all this other nonsense to try to tie in that the Earth is an AE mapping model when it's already been completely exposed that it's not. Nor did he debunk any of the statements that were just made, as I have been. Like I said, Aristophanes did the shadow thing, and that was absolutely a psyop too. It probably never took place because it would have taken him like a month or whatever, even longer, to travel between the two spots that he supposedly measured the shadow in the well, that he said that he was able to determine that there was curvature. That's nonsense, right? The same experiment works with a local sun, right? At the same time. And not only that, but when we move around on the flat Earth, yes, there are different constellations in the sky, and that has it's absolutely a non sequitur, straw man, inductive reasoning debate point. You could nail whatever that nonsense is in so many different ways. Just because you see different stars does not in any way, shape, or form mean that you live on a sphere. The two things are so nonsensical that I can't even believe that is what mainstream science used, and that all the people believed it. Everyone ate it up like candy.
Yeah,
so
but
Mark,
you can use that star rotation to prove that there are two polar rotations, which thus disqualifies any map that has only a single polar point.
Well, and the scriptures teach us that the Earth was made flat and that the sky above us is made round to circle around the flat plane. That's how it works, guys. We have this circle of sight, and we have the arc and the path that the luminaries trace, a perfect half circle through our sky. And not only that, you can actually navigate the map with the stars that are put up there, and they tell the beautiful story of the Father. Okay, so if anybody else wants to debate these types of things with us, we are all on it. Please leave a comment below if you'd like to debate anything that I've just said.
They all drew the same thing. They all drew a snow globe, which is, we're
a snow globe.
And by the way, we don't use the word round, or so we don't, when we're describing globe, sphere, or ball, because your dining room table is round.
Oh, such a stupid argument.
Yeah, but the thing is so here Mark has the opportunity to school this guy because he did use the word round, and it's just ridiculous to use the word round because it doesn't delineate between a sphere or a circle. All right?
Add geometry, right? Ooh,
just
give him a bell.
Anybody that uses the word round, be it for heliocentrism or for the fake flat Earth, that's a bad word. There's no reason to use round. Use circular or sphere.
I can use round, and it's not even a circular shape. Like once a year we go to Passover, and then round the next year we make a travel back for Passover. 1 year we round back and forth, and it's not a circle. It would have been a straight there, straight back path, right? So the term round is nonsensical and, again, stupid when discussing the geometry of our realm. And remember, all Mark is really doing right now is talking about the floor. Okay, when we talk about flat Earth, you guys, it's just the floor, right? When we talk about the sky, then we open up a whole other realm of possibilities that we discuss.
Dinner plate is round, but they all drew the same thing, which is, we're living on a flat stationary disc somewhere that's covered with some sort of barrier. Nonsense. And everything you see on the sky is moving.
So covered with some sort of barrier, that's the thing that he has zero proof for. Now, this is going to be interesting. It'll come up multiple times here. He's the guy that's going to say that we have to have a dome because how could we have atmosphere, the air, right, up against the vacuum of space? So the fake flat earthers are the ones that'll say we have to have a dome because otherwise the air would just go off into outer space, right?
Oh boy.
All right, so there is no proof of a dome, and the whole concept of this air going off into outer space is just part of a religious idea that there is outer space, because there's no proof of that as well. What we have is, in fact, with a dome, if you were to pressurize inside that dome, you would have equal pressure everywhere. Because
You took it away from me.
Because you can't check the tire pressure at the top of the tire and at the bottom of the tire and get two different pressure readings. It's one pressure.
Yes, you explained it.
Go ahead.
You finally gave me the debunk or the smasher of that point. You know, what Jason's stating is that the pressure in the tire, let's say, because a lot of these chumps actually go around saying we live in some kind of Toyota donut. Okay, so what we're likening this to is the tire or the donut that your car rides on. It has one pressure check valve, right? At the bottom or wherever the tire ends up being when you check the pressure, and you fill that tire till it gets to the said amount of pounds per square inch pressure in the whole entire area. You don't have a section closer to the rim that's super pressurized, and then as it gets closer to the outer edge, it's less pressurized. And this is the argument that Nathan Oakley, that entire nonsensical team that are all shills, all globe earthers like Ranty Rant, who we said was a bald earther right from day one, they promote nothing but lies. The very fact that the pressure is totally different when you're at different altitudes. So in the simulation, the realm that the creator made, the pressure at the top of the realm, of the boundary, the ceiling, it's zero. There's no pressure. That's why when you launch balloons, they expand. Then they blow up and the parachute deploys and the camera comes back down.
That's around 120, maybe 130,000 feet at most. That's right. And there's no pressure up at that point, but there's a gradient from that elevation, 120, 130,000 feet, down to the ground, where then we have the pressure that we experience at ground level. And then as you go lower, if you go underneath the water, that pressure gradient goes up exponentially. And it doesn't take long where you have extreme pressure that nothing can survive.
And so the reason why in my last video, the Flat Earth Resurrections, another plug, it's on Jason's channel here, the Solar, the Uni, is absolutely the best place to check your altimeter. So your altimeter will tell you your altitude on the pressure that it reads. Right? And the whole entire Solar, it's the exact same pressure, right? Whereas if it was curved, you would be going down and then you would have a different pressure on the flat surface of the Solar. So these are all key important things that Jason and I bring to the table that you won't get anywhere else. And remember, if the Earth was a donut or a domed in reality, you would have the same pressure if it was an enclosed system. It's absolutely not enclosed. The scriptures teach that there's rivers that come forth from Eden. That's another realm, right? And also the sun and the moon traverse through heaven and earth. They go into another realm too. And you can literally see the sun and the moon rising from somewhere else. Okay, we've got tons of observable, repeatable evidence to back up everything we say.
We have Salman Chinooki in the chat that says, totally wrong. You can't have equal pressure throughout the earth. It wouldn't work. Your statement is wrong. We're not saying that there is equal pressure because there is no dome. The proof that there is no dome is that there is not equal pressure. That's what we're saying.
Correct. The air pressure in your tire is checked from one valve stem. We're explaining to you that the pressure throughout that entire enclosed system is the amount of pounds per square inch that you pump into the tire. It doesn't vary closer to the rim because you'd have to have multiple valves to check in different spots. And what we're stating is that the simulation that you live in goes from at the very top, 0. And at the very, very bottom of the Marianas Trench, you have an extreme amount of pressure, extreme, that heavier than you could ever imagine, right? And this is how the creation took place.
Yeah, pressure varies by altitude. That is That is a fact. And that wouldn't work if we were in a pressurized dome. You wouldn't have a gradient. Everything would be equal pressure, and you wouldn't be able to have wind currents if you were in a pressurized dome.
Yes. And the way that the clouds and everything that we observe and we can repeat, and to take it up another level, also what we've researched and discovered, I've read most of the internet, was the systems of underwater channels, aquifers, and the way that the water actually pumps up through the north, then moving towards the outer parts of the map, and then gets cycled back in, as well as rivers running in and out from Eden with this healthy living water that the Creator gives us. These are all scriptural based observations, including the tides being a part of this breath system of the realm that we're in. Boundaries are certainly real, but they're so created in a way that you can't see them. You can go in any direction. You can come back to the same spot through what's called a wrapping around the map. And this is what we've been sharing with everybody. It's Occam's razor. When you discover the truth of things, it's the simplest thing that's usually right, no matter how crazy it may sound to you, right? This is how it was created. The boundaries were encompassed with waters, not a dome, not an ice wall, waters. That's how it works. The boundaries are all boundaried off with water, and the water runs around and comes through heaven to earth and then back out. And the pumping system creates the tides. It has so much. This place is fine-tuned at a number of, like, was it 10 to the power of 2,770? Like, it's the most ridiculous thing. All of the supposed atoms in the universe are still lower than the number of the tuning. It had to be that precise for this place to exist. And when scientists hit this point, they are instantly, there's no way to argue against a creator. And lastly of this rant, because I feel like this is something important, we get a lot of people that come in and say, oh, you guys believe that's a simulation. You guys are idiots. There's no creator, right? And the stupidest thing, when Jason reads these comments to me, I have to sit down and think about things. Okay, a simulation doesn't create itself. It has a creator, and his name is Yahawahashai, and that means exists or existence, right? From him came everything, all existence, and back to him, all existence goes. He came here, he told us this, right? It's very simple.
Well, Mark and this guy are going to get into all that, but first Mark is going to tell them all about the fake flat earth first. So we got to get through Mark explaining how the fake flat earth works for a while, and then we'll get into the simulation talk later.
Not us. And so why did just about every culture draw the same thing? I know you're going to say, oh, the Greeks, screw the Greeks, right? Even they didn't know. They were talking about this when they didn't know about the shape of the continents. So it's like, yeah, great. I get your whole sticks and shadows argument, but it also works if the light source is very, very close and very, very small. How's that?
All right. So now he's showing us a graphic. He just said the sun is close and very, very small. And he shows us crepuscular rays where the sun is obviously close because of the angle of the sun right here. But what Mark will never show you is anti-crepuscular rays, right? Those are the ones when the sun is below the clouds and the rays are shooting up into the skies. And anybody, you can just Google it, anti-crepuscular rays. That proves that the sun is below the clouds. Right now he's showing that the sun is above. That's great. It's obviously close, within miles, not the distance that his model requires. It requires the sun being up 3,000 miles in his model. And
it's what, 33 miles wide, right?
Mm-hmm.
They just love that number, you Freemason joke.
Go on, Shaun. What is your view then of? Let's get that clear. So, what is your view of how the Earth does look? You're in Seattle.
Exactly. What does the world look like?
Yeah, go
on. And normally I would have a background, but the green screen we tried earlier for whatever reason.
So hang on. This is going to be, I don't know. Okay. Right now he has a picture of train tracks going off into the horizon for perspective, right? And what he's doing is he's mixing a time-lapse concept where nobody in their life have ever witnessed the sun move away getting smaller. Ever. No one. It's not observable unless you take a camera which doesn't have a good enough focus mechanism.
Well, it's
that
actually
the sun looks blown out.
It's the auto exposure.
Because
time lapse is a string of pictures, put together. So the auto exposure adjusts each time. So when the sun is up high, it's real bright and it has this large glow to it. But as it gets lower and it's less strong, the auto exposure compensates for it, and now you actually see the actual edge of it. But you can see, you can zoom in so much more with a zoom camera and actually see the full size of the sun. Never changed, especially if you use a solar filter throughout the day.
And you can use a filter. You can even use, if you know anybody like a welder, if you just look at the sun with welder's glasses on, you will see the edges of the sun all day, and it's never changed its size ever. And which that would not work if the sun was 92 million miles away. The sun would definitely get larger throughout the day and then smaller as it's setting and you were rotating away from it, which has never been observed. So right now he's mixing perspective, right, with the train tracks off to the horizon, which is a good way to explain how the distance to the horizon works, where you have what's called a vanishing point. The distance where you can't see the tracks anymore is usually, if you're standing and you're 6 feet tall, 3 miles from the observer. It's what they then turned around and said was curvature, right? What they were measuring was the distance to the horizon. So if you rise in altitude right now with the picture we're looking at, the sun would rise with you because it is also locked to the observer. Every observer, every camera. But the key thing is that the sun never shrinks. It doesn't move away from you, right? The sun wraps around you equidistantly, perfectly throughout every single day of your life. And you can go and watch with your own eyes. You will never see the sun shrink. Okay. Just want to make sure everybody understands that.
Yeah. We have DJ Daz in the chat that says the winds would be so much different near where the dome gets closer to the earth. Once again, remember, if we had a pressurized domed earth, there would be no wind, right? Because you wouldn't have pressure variance. And the reason why we have wind is because the air moves from high pressure to low pressure. That's the reason why it moves. Because of a pressure variant, the wind is created. So we wouldn't have wind if we were inside a dome. There's not wind inside of a tire.
And also, it's 2022, right? We have planes that can fly everywhere. You don't think there would be some evidence of the corner of the dome? You don't think anyone would see the edge? It's 2022, ladies and gentlemen. They've sailed to the only model that works is why we are so dogmatic with what we tell people. If you go back to the podcast, we explain the model. I put it down hard. It's because the only way that it would work is exactly the way that we've laid it out. And I'm not saying that to sound egotistical. I don't care about my ego. I don't care. This is the truth. You can circumnavigate our map, and it's flat. It has 4 corners. It follows every guideline that the scripture said, right down to Enoch explaining the 6 areas of the sky with a compass that we can go out and measure that the sun traverses back and forth throughout the year, creating the seasons, creating all the different weather variations that we see and measure and observe daily. And Enoch had it broken down to explain everything, including the analemma. Everything works perfectly. And Enoch wrote that book 5,000 years ago. And it was like he was looking at the program that Jason shares. It has exactly the 6 sections broken up. The 2 on the outside edges are both half sections. And you have all of the other ones in the place. And the sun absolutely does exactly what Enoch said it did 5,000 years ago. And again, these are the reasons why I'm ready to debate anybody in the world.
And I'll correct and make a little bit more accurate my statement about pressure. So if you had a transparent tire, it was absolutely transparent, and you had some gas in there, and you were to color the gas in a way that you would be able to see its movement, as you spun the tire, you would eventually have that air circulating around inside the tire, but all one direction. So that right there, we have the winds travel in all directions on Earth. So in the Freemason New World Order AE map and model, where you have the sun and moon doing circles around a single polar point, if you said that the sun and moon were dragging along air currents as they're floating 3,000 miles up in the air, then everything would be circulating in one direction. And yet we know that we have currents going every single direction. In the same day, you can have the wind just come from every direction. Right?
Yes, north, east, south, and west. You can go out and repeat these observations. There's nothing that Jason and I are telling you on the other side of the screen that you can't test for yourself, right? Like it's simple.
So Mark just said that his green screen didn't work, so he's just running with props. But over on his stream, he's given us images like this, trying to mentally suggest that perspective is the reason why we don't see a shrinking sun. It's not real.
Never.
Doesn't do very well. You are living in a building with walls and a floor and a ceiling. For lack of a better term, a planetarium, a terrarium, Hollywood soundstage. And for, again, most of the cultures, it kind of looks like a snow globe. So you were talking about,
No.
well, aside from the building things, you're talking about a giant saltwater pond with...
So he says giant saltwater pond, and then he brings up the Freemason New World Order AE map model, which has the sun and moon being like 32, 33 miles wide and up 3,000 miles. And they won't admit to this, but yet if you sit down and do the calculation on the equinox of a 45 degree latitude north, 45 degree latitude south, and how they both see the sun at 45 degrees, it demands the sun being up 3,000 miles. There's no way around that. So there's so many things about this model right here that we've debunked for the last 4 years that we can just go on and on and on about it. Right here you can see that you would see the moon all the way around it. You would see this side of it from over here. You would see the other side coming this way. You would see a side from the north and you would see a side from the south.
Everybody would have different faces, and they would have different phases of the moon every day.
Yeah. And so anytime they were opposed like this, the full moon would be on this side, right? Only to the north, and then you would have a dark moon to the south. All of these things, none of it works. None of it works.
Yes. No, none of it. We've only ever seen one face of the moon and one face of the sun. Anyone else that shows you anything other than that, it's CGI.
Islands in the middle of it, which are continents, and the North Pole would be in the center, and there is no official South Pole. It's just surrounded. In fact, all the continents look pretty much the same, with the exception of Antarctica. Antarctica isn't this island continent that looks like Australia, roughly the same size. It is stretched out around the entire thing, and it's much, much larger. And
there is no proof for that.
Nope. And nobody figured this out until about 1960.
And he's doing the first degree accepted apprenticeship of the Freemasonic Lodge with a black and white hat on. Everybody, this hand sign right here, we exposed it right away. This is Jason. You were at a meetup, right? I don't know if
I wouldn't
tell everybody.
I wouldn't do their hand sign. I photobombed their shot.
Thank you for that, bro.
Soviet Union. And they decided that civilization had come too far. So it's like, you know what? We're just not going to tell anybody until we have to. How do I know this? That's the question?
Yeah.
Mostly verifying ancient cosmologies. I looked into this back in 2014 because I hated it.
Verifying ancient cosmologies.
Hang on. Why isn't he bringing up Enoch or the Christianity way on this guy's show? Is this guy an atheist? He has to bring up Buddhism? What? Like, what are we going to get to next?
No, he's going to call himself an evangelical later, yet he's not going to offer any scriptural proof. No scriptural proof.
Because everybody knows I've been saying the entire podcast, quote almost from Enoch, everything. So the sun rises, as he said, and he decreases his speed not. Right? I can quote you Enoch scriptures that you can go out and measure today in 2022 that nobody in the world can debunk. But yet we've got Mark here on a channel with almost 700,000 subscribers, and he hasn't said one true thing, except now he just continues to say ancient cosmology, but not talking to you guys on the other side of the screen about what true matches with reality ancient cosmology is, right? Because these people hate the creator. They hate him. They hate the creator. They hate the sun. They just want to mock. They want to call him Jesus, which means Earth pig. That's what these people want.
Everybody that goes into flat Earth hates it. Oh God, they hate it so much, including me, because it's ridiculous. I've been in a conspiracy.
This is supposed to be the leader, and he hates it, and it's ridiculous. That's how he sells flat Earth to this huge heliocentric channel. That's how he sells it.
I have an opinion on every conspiracy you could think of. Some I like, some I hate, but there was one I absolutely would not look at, which was flat Earth. And in 2014,
So right there had
I was
clouds
like,
behind the moon. Right. He didn't point that out, right? Some of the greatest, you guys on the other side of the screen, I got to give you guys a little bit of an insight, something you've been seeing your entire lives. You've never actually looked at it and realized that there are always clouds behind the moon, more, way more than the clouds go in front of the sun. You want to know why? Should I ring the bell? Enoch talked about the moon being on the lowest path of the luminaries. There's 7 wandering luminaries in the sky that Enoch taught us about, each and every one of them, right? And the moon is on the lowest, right? And the clouds actually transcend up into the highest of the heavens, which would be the top of the simulation, right? And that's why we're able to see clouds behind the sun and the moon and stars and rainbows. And not only that, the blue that you see around the daytime moon, right, is why NASA had to come out and say, yeah, the blue actually extends out 350,000 miles. It's because the blue of the sky is actually above the clouds and the sun and the moon and the stars and everything. And that could be what you could see as it's not a physical operation here. This is a supernatural, virtual, spiritual realm, right? And the bow and the arch of the sky is what the sun and the moon and all the stars traverse. They do it. They curve around us. And at the very top of it, it's blue in the daytime, right? The light comes in before the sun rises up from the earth, which we've shown. The sun literally comes up out of the ground or from some other realm. It just comes up and circles around you and sets back into the ground, right? And it traces the path, and all these things are observable. Like Dell, Jason, was
Here's another thing. Anybody that's ever filmed the moon knows how close it is, because if you use a P900, you use a P1000, and you get it in focus, what you're going to notice is that focus is going to be closer than something that you're trying to focus on 10 miles away from you.
Yes.
Right. So the focus is closer. Right? You're not actually focused to infinity. You're focusing closer. That's when the moon becomes crisp. Now you pan down and you film a building that's 10 miles away from you, and now you have to extend the focus further. So the moon actually, you can see how close it is once you actually start recording and focus it yourself.
Yeah, and I really want everybody to be looking up, right? Which is funny. The dogs are howling. I guess they hear sirens or something. Look up, okay? Look at the moon. She's beautiful. If you read the extra canonical book of Bartholomew, which is an amazing book that talks about a resurrection of all the prophets. They were all running around Jerusalem when Yahawahashai did his passion. Bartholomew teaches that the sun and the moon are parabolically linked to Adam and Eve. And the moon is 7 times, that Enoch told us, dimmer, because Eve was the first one to sin. And when we have no need for the sun and the moon, right, that when the millennial reign doesn't have a sun and a moon, we are the lights of the place. I want to let you guys know there's a good chance that Adam and Eve is going to be with us.
All right, let's keep going.
Yeah, I'm getting older, so I was like, yeah, you know what? I'll take a look. Why not? Knock this thing out in a weekend, and hammered on 9 months later, right? 9 months later, in beginning of 2015, I gave up. I said, all right, I can't prove the globe in a court of law anymore. I'm just going to ask the internet, because the internet hive mind is very, very intelligent. And I said, tell me where I went wrong. And I made a series of videos called Flat Earth Clues, put them out there, put all my contact information out there.
All right, I just want to point out here, now he's showing an analemma over the Freemason New World Order AE map model. And we've shown that this is what takes place within a person's circle of sight. This drawing the 8 over this, we can show you from like solar noon positions from these locations. This you would never get, not from this physical model of reality. All right, so the solar noon position, they're showing it over these locations right here, but on the given days, if you go down to those positions, now all of a sudden here you're south of the equator, you're looking the other direction. This is just nonsensical. And
it's funny, Passio is going to come out and he's going to tell you guys that because there's different stars in the south, that the AE map and model, and therefore flat Earth is debunked. We've explained everything exactly down to why the analemma is larger in the southern part of the Earth, because the Earth isn't flat perfectly, it's oblate. The southern half actually bulges out a little bit more than the northern half does, because that's the way that the water pumps through the realm. Okay, I just want everybody to be ready for that, because Passio, he thinks he's got something. He's going to use the straw man. I'm going to debunk the AE map. That means that your Earth ground is curved? Absolutely not, Joker.
So I'm going to drag the date here, and you're going to see that there is an analemma path, and this is the path of the sun for the observer, around each observer. And so as you move it day by day, it does trace out an analemma just like this. This is how the analemma works within everybody's circle of sight. Representing it like this, we can prove that that is not the reading that you would get, because it has to be from the same location, right?
Yeah, no, can I get you to go back to that?
Yeah.
So if you could show people the 6 spots while I read here, because I'm quick on the ball. I mean, on the plane. It goes on to say in chapter 72 of the book of Enoch, all right, the chapter on the book of the heavenly luminaries and their courses. It says the sun has its rising in the eastern portals, which are the 6 portals mentioned that Jason's showing you.
So I've got it facing the east right now.
And it calls the sky heaven. It doesn't call it a dome or a rock, firmament. It calls it heaven. That's another word for a rakia, is the heavens. And its setting is in the western portals of the heavens. And
that's this side
I saw
over here.
6 portals in which the sun rises on the east, and 6 portals in which the sun sets. And the moon rises and sets in these portals too. And the leaders of the stars and those whom they lead, 6 in the east and 6 in the west, and all following each other in accurately corresponding order. Also, many windows to the right and the left of these portals. And first there goes forth the great luminary named the sun, and his circumference is like the circumference of heaven. So Jason is showing you right here on a flat plane simulation, there's 6 sides on the east and 6 sides on the west, accurately corresponding exactly the way that Enoch wrote 5,000 years ago. And it shows you exactly the shape of the luminaries, right? When the sun sets, you can see it looks like a half dome or a half circle, right? And it's exactly what Enoch said. Likened under the circumference of heaven. So the sky has the same circumference as the luminaries. That doesn't mean that you live on a sphere, because it goes on to say that when the destruction comes, the earth is going to be made flat, like a leaf, flat. All the hills and everything is going to be mowed down, and it'll be a flat plane, exactly the way that this demonstration points out. Again, I'll put this in the chat for anybody who wants to read it and match it up. We are showing you guys a 2022 simulation that matches word for word with a 5,000-year-old document. And people wonder why I get so agitated and worked up, like in our model hangout. I was fired up because we've been showing this for years, and not one truther has stepped up and been a man and started making videos confirming what we've said and sharing it with their subscribers, because no one out here actually gives a damn about the truth. And we're just going to keep bringing it to you.
Mm-hmm. So let's go back to this.
Like, I mean, I'm getting worked up.
Let me get
I don't know
back
if
to
my
my
ego is
life.
getting worked
And
up, Jason, but
everyone-
I feel that the truth itself is what is the passion that I'm here for. Like, how can you pull up a 2022? I'd like to get a little bit more from you before you move on. How can you pull up that map and model that you're using? And I read the book of Enoch, 5,000-year-old document that was passed on through the flood. How is it that it lines up perfectly with what you're showing, Jason? Please explain that to me, please.
Apparently Enoch saw what we were just looking at, because they match.
Is there any other way we could look at it?
No, not if they're both accurate. No, and they both are accurate. So the one is what we can actually go out and measure. All right, we can see at sunrise at this location, this day of the year, at this time, when the sun's going to rise and from what angle, and we can actually project which direction the shadow is going to go and how long it's going to be. We can do every little bit of that.
That matches a 5,000-year-old book.
Mm-hmm. It's pretty amazing. All right,
I'm dumbfounded, baffled at the creation. It's not us. It's the truth just comes out.
Mark's gonna admit that the The creator, he's not going to say who it is, but he did a good job, Mark says. We'll get to it.
One was coming back to me with all sorts of amazing stuff. I had pilots and engineers and air traffic controllers and lots of people from the military. They're all saying, you know what? It's not that crazy. Here's why. And so, sorry, but as far as the 5 bullet points, I think I sent you the thing on it. I won't go into the details because I know we're limited on time. But real quick, long distance photography, first and foremost. That's what drags most people into this, which is you can see way farther than you normally could. So if the curvature is 8 inches per mile, eventually the boats are gone and they're gone forever. You should never be able to see them again. But with HD technology, again, this is post-grunge music. With HD cameras, now you can zoom into the distance and you can pull these boats back into frame.
All right, so that's a flat out lie. Absolute lie. Once a boat has gone out of the circle of sight and has disappeared from the circle of sight, there is absolutely no amount of magnification that will bring it back. The only thing that you can do to bring it back is to go up in elevation, because it increases your circle of sight. And then if it's not too far away, then you might be able to see it again. But that is totally elevation based, and zooming does not bring things back into sight. They have to be visible within the circle of sight to be magnified. Once they've gone beyond the circle of sight, they cannot be magnified. They are gone.
Number 1.
Yeah, just quickly to just talk about that. Once something goes beyond your vanishing point, you can't magnify or bring it back in. And this is the exact same lie that bald earthers use to try to tell you they can see to the ends of the universe through magnification, when all we can do is magnify anything that's in our circle of sight, beyond, in front of the vanishing point.
Mm-hmm.
Number 2, vacuum versus gravity, meaning there's no way a pure vacuum of space would not rip off the atmosphere. And I could give you an example on that. Number 3.
So that's going to be his dome proof, right? Proof of dome, because there's no way a vacuum could rip off the atmosphere. There is no vacuum, and the atmosphere is a gradient. So he's psyoping people with this comparison to something that we know doesn't exist.
Would be the moon temperature, which is the moon is generating a cold laser light, which just blows me away, meaning it's colder in the moonlight than the moon shade, up to.
So I know a whole bunch of fake flat earthers that promote that. I tried testing it myself. I had a piece of steel out on a full moon night, and I had one end of it in the shade, and I had another end in the full moonlight, and then I had one of those laser temperature guns. I didn't measure any difference. Now, I only tried this test one night, but I didn't measure any difference. And so this is not something I go around spouting off to people, because just like he said, you can zoom boats in from the distance. Chances are this is another psyop that people haven't gone out and tested, because the time I did test it, I didn't find an appreciable difference. I wouldn't be able to stand and say, well, Earth is flat because the moonlight is colder, right?
To 13 degrees Fahrenheit. Number 4 would be the eclipse shadow, kind of tying into Shaun's question earlier, which is why is the eclipse shadow so small? If the moon is...
Oh, let's talk about eclipse shadows. That's the real thing to talk about. What do eclipse shadows look like? And this is an important enough one that I'm going to stop here and type in eclipse shadows and show people what eclipse shadows look like. They look like this, right? So you actually get a positive image. Instead of it being a shadow, it's actually light. And there's nothing else you can do in this world to have light as opposed to being a shadow. So this is a negative image. And so eclipse shadows literally are the proof that we're in a simulation. If you just contemplate eclipse shadows alone, you have the proof that we are in a simulation.
moon is 2,000 miles wide. Why is the blackout zone only 70 miles wide, which is roughly what we kind of say the moon is in size? And 5 would be the Van Allen radiation belt question, which is, okay, if the Van Allen radiation belts deadly? Yes or no? If they are, then how the Americans get through them with no shielding whatsoever, and nobody died, nobody got radiation poisoning. There's still 4 of these guys limping around today.
Absolute red herring. So now some Van Allen radiation belts, which have never been measured, right? We can only go 120,000 feet up. Now all of a sudden we're going to talk about Van Allen radiation belts the supposed spacecraft is supposed to be flying through. So any flat earther that's using the Van Allen belt is out to psyop you, because there's no Van Allen belts. It's not proof that we didn't go to the moon. There's no Van Allen belt.
And if they are not deadly, then why did NASA make this wonderful program saying, oh yeah, we can't test our Mars program capsules because there's too much radiation and people would die? There you go. That's the 5 questions I threw at this astrophysicist out of Georgetown University, and he just folded. Nope, not doing this. Going home.
Right. All right.
Well,
That's all very technical, and perhaps some of the viewers are.
I know.
Technical, no. But I guess it went over this guy's head.
I can make it easy for him if you want me to.
Let me ask you some questions. Just get some basics here.
Okay.
What shape do you believe the Earth is then? And
It's
looking at it from space.
What space?
If it's flat, is it like a 45-inch single with UK on one side and Australia?
I can't hear you, so I don't know if you want to throw the thumbnail up and then try recalling me. I got a drink, and when I came back, I can't hear anything on your end. I got to maybe start the hangout again.
Let me see if I stop the share and share again, if that helps. See if you can hear it now.
Wait, here, hang on.
Can you hear it?
Nothing.
All
I might
right.
have to fly solo for a minute.
All right. So I'll stop the share.
Sorry, everybody.
You gonna take off? I'll call you back once you're gone. Yeah, so I'm just gonna get Ronnie back here quick, everyone. We are just going through, we're at like almost the 12-minute mark of a 42-minute video, so we'll probably get through this in just a little bit more than be a little bit past 10 o'clock probably when we get through it.
Still not working.
You can't hear?
I'll have to reboot. I'll be back.
Okay. All right, so I'm just going to keep going with the video, and he'll let me know once he's back up. And now I can't hear it. What is going on? I should be able to hear it. And the audio is gone. Let me try refreshing this page here. I'm at 1138. There should be audio. No audio. What am I going to do to fix the no audio situation now? Sorry, everyone.
Space. Why does there have to? Why does there have to?
Now I've got.
Like pictures
I can
taken
hear
from
the
space
audio.
that show the shape of the Earth. But wouldn't pilots, as they reached the base of the snow dome, airplane pilots, wouldn't they have to like seriously adjust their flight trajectory to go down the
not normal pilots, because you're talking about something that's very, very huge. This thing is so big, and I know it's a small little model, and I could bring out a bigger model, but you can look these up. the dome of this thing would be so high by comparison. I mean, even if it was, say, 3,000 miles.
All right. So he's saying that the dome would be very high. It would have to be like 3,000 miles up. So his model actually requires that the sun be 3,000 miles up. When he's saying that the dome would have to be very high, he says 3,000. That literally is the height that he needs the sun to be. So if the world is 24,000 miles in width, 1,000 miles equals 15 degrees of longitude. Then if the height of the dome was equal to the width of Earth, then you'd be looking at a 25,000 mile high dome. So everything that he's talking about is a physical model. This dome is a physical structure that would require the structural steel, the concrete, if it's glass, if it's made out of diamond, whatever. So the height of this, it would need to be structurally big enough to withstand the weight of 25,000 miles of height all the way around. If you actually did the circumference of that half circle, you'd have an even bigger number. This would be quite the structure that he's suggesting. But then he's going to go on to talk about how we're in a simulation. So we'll keep going.
Miles high. Well, commercial aircraft cap out about 10 miles. Spy planes, if you believe them, cap out at about 20 miles. So they don't have to do anything. There's this wonderful video by Neil deGrasse Tyson.
He just said the spy planes top out at 20 miles. If that's 120, or yeah, 100. How many miles is that? 20 miles. Yeah, I guess that would be around the 60 to 80,000 feet. All right, but his model requires a sun that's 3,000 miles high.
World's most famous scientist, not knocking Brian Cox, he's number 2, which is, he said that, there was a Red Bull jump that happened some years ago. And the Red Bull, they sent this guy up in a balloon, right? Put him in an astronaut suit and had him jump out at 130,000 feet. It's not that high. It's only 20 miles. Well, the pictures they took showed this massive, massive curvature. And Neil deGrasse Tyson comes out and goes, yeah, it's scientifically dishonest. Now, he hates flat Earth, but he said this. He goes, you can't see the curve from 130,000 feet. So why is Red Bull doing this? And it's like, well, the images. I've talked to producers, and I asked them, why do you run those Red Bull images? And they go, well, it's good television. They're good images. They're dramatic. They show this massive curve. I go, but it's not real. They go, we don't care. It gets viewers.
So one of our viewers, Ari, has pointed out that
PSYOP material
that you're proposing, that perhaps satellites wouldn't be able to work because they're programmed to orbit a spherical Earth.
Look up something called the High Altitude NASA Balloon Program. They've been doing this.
So Mark's going to take it to high altitude balloons, and that really is the highest sustainable thing that you can keep up in the air. So maybe up to 120, 130,000 feet, they're able to keep a payload suspended, all right, as long as they keep the right amount of helium in the balloon where it doesn't go too high, and then they can set their elevation. So I guess since there isn't a wind current up there, wherever they parked it, it's probably going to sit there until it fails. So there isn't flying ISS spacecraft like Jaron says. All right, Jaron's the one that says the ISS is real, and Mark's not denying it. So let me try to get a hold of Ronnie here, showing that he's in a call. Shouldn't be. We'll keep going with this video.
Since the 50s. NASA is the world's largest producer and consumer of helium in the world. A lot of people don't know this. They can launch balloons, and it's not secret information. They can launch payloads of upwards of 4 tons, which is, and I'm not going to do the conversion for you guys, roughly 8,000 pounds. That's more than a couple cars. And they can do this with balloons, pennies on the dollar. And they can keep them up there. It's not like weather balloons where they just go up and they burst and they come back down. They can keep them up there for years. which also answers a big question of ours, which was, if you remember the movie Gravity with Sandra Bullock. You know, the concept was, oh yeah, a satellite ran into another satellite, and then it just became this cascading effect, and the whole sky became this thing of jagged metal. It's like, that would have happened already. In fact, it would have happened many, many times. So why hasn't it? Why haven't we seen this cascading effect of satellites? It's because they're not rotating its ball. They're just freaking balloons, and you can see them go down. We got wonderful videos. They go down every once in a while, and they get picked up really quickly and quietly and taken away.
All right, so I just want to point out, Mark shares this. This is the kind of thing that David Weiss shares. They have no evidence for a dome, yet then they go around sharing maps that have land masses outside of a dome. There's no coordinate system. There's no scale. They don't even have proof of the dome. Yet they share maps like this. So they just try to take people off into mental fantasies that I guess some people are susceptible to, but you should be able to see that you'd be an idiot to believe anything outside of something that they don't even have a dome. Now they're saying there's land outside of it.
No one wants to talk about it. It's brilliant.
I'm interested, I think, on almost a philosophical level. The first thing you said when I asked why you believe the Earth is flat was the ancient cosmologists, I think you said.
Yeah.
Why give them more weight and credence than modern scientists with all the science and they didn't even have electricity? But those ancient cosmologists, they can't have been that smart.
Well, no, but at the same time, everyone was on the same page. Meaning, you have governments that weren't communicating back in the day when it was just horses and ships. And yet they were all seeing and drawing the exact same thing. That was, that when I was looking at that, I was going, okay, why is everybody looking at this the exact same way? It's like, because they were all ignorant. They couldn't read and write. And it was like, they were just observing the stars, going over in the sky. And yet, if you watch a time lapse video, not much has changed since then. If you watch a time lapse, type in like star trails time lapse.
Yeah, let's talk about star trails. All you have to do is, when you're north of the equator, point your camera towards Polaris, and do a time lapse, and what you'll have is star trails of the stars rotating counterclockwise. Now all you have to do is be south of the equator, right, and point your camera up at the section of sky called Sigmoid 10s. There's not a center star there, but all the stars are rotating around that spot in the sky, and they're rotating clockwise. So these electronics that you're referring to are the proof that your model is impossible, Mark. Proof.
When you watch that, you can't break out of the illusion. When you're watching that, it's like, because of science tells you that it's like, oh, we're moving, not the stars. But when you watch it, it's the stars that are moving. So why isn't the easiest answer the best answer in this case? Why aren't the stars moving? Why? It's like, because NASA told us so. It's like, oh, you mean the Americans? And by the way, I have to bring this up because I know you guys are out in
so his
England,
whole
right?
argument's gonna be lying Americans.
Yeah. You're in England. So Americans believe absolutely, because it's a patriotic duty, that we went to the moon and we were the only ones. We planted the flag. Go, rah, rah, we're the best. Why did you guys believe it? And every time I ask this, the knee-jerk response is almost inevitably the same, which is, because it was on television. Because the Americans put it on television and go, because we don't lie about anything ever. Especially our governments.
This is his proof of flat Earth.
Oh God, we're so honest. Come on, you don't believe that.
And
by the way, that also, we left in 1972. Why didn't anybody go back? And I have to give the British credit. I have to give the UK credit, because all these other countries got into a space program, right? There's a Japan space program, and Russian and the European Union stuff. England never got into it. Why not? Because they were smart. That's why. Remember, don't forget the James Bond film where they made fun of it, where Sean Connery's running across the fake moon set. It was brilliant, and the astronauts couldn't catch him because they were still in character. They were running in slow motion. Awesome.
But aren't they sort of making fun of you, Mark, with those? When you see satirical sort of things in TV shows and movies and things, they're making the joke is that some people really believe this was faked.
Sometimes it's a joke, and some.
Now he's showing a close local sun, crepuscular rays. All a person has to do is look up anti-crepuscular rays and see that the sun definitely is below the clouds as well. All right, it's not 3,000 miles up. It's circling around each observer from horizon to horizon.
Sometimes I think they're doing a wink to the camera, going all the way back to the wonderful documentary by Stanley Kubrick,
Yes.
which was about Stanley Kubrick, called Room 237, where he supposedly built into The Shining the entire his involvement in the American fake moon program, which is why not? And by the way, I don't blame him. Every director would have gone for it. If the government comes to you with a blank check and says, "Oh yeah, we'll give you unlimited money to do this, but you can't tell anybody."
Only dishonest people would do that.
So, if the Earth is flat, why do we say Australians are down under?
Wow.
That's just conditioning.
That's a clever one. Huh?
Yeah.
That's straight up conditioning. In fact, we have a
Proof
hard
we're
time.
on a
Our
globe,
community
right?
has a hard time breaking out of that because there's so many sayings, especially the down under and down here and down there. Even in America, when we're driving from Seattle to California, oh yeah, we're going to drive down to California.
Yeah, well,
and people forget, it's like, even if it
hang
was a
on.
globe, why is this?
So if you have, 4 boundaries, whatever, northeast, south, and west, south can still be looked at as down. You're just not going under anything, right? It's just nonsensical, the argument that these two guys are trying to put forth here.
Yeah, he's just trying to sound smart. He's overstanding this guy by the fact that north, south, east, and west could be arbitrary. Why would you say that the North Pole's the North Pole? Why is it not the South Pole, right? Everything's relative. So he's going with relative reasoning.
This the top and Australia's the bottom, but that's a whole other thing. It's like,
Could you demonstrate on your object where Australia is?
oh, it's still there. I don't know if you can see it.
Whereabouts is Australia on that?
It's right.
So
Right
this is
down. You
this
can
is
see it.
around
It's
the
off to
time period that he's bringing this up.
And it's all just flat, and then the dome at the top is like the atmosphere, is it?
Yeah. Which goes into a whole nother thing, which is, why is our atmosphere still here? I have to get this argument out because it's the one I love.
Here's the
more than
pressurized
most.
container.
Can you answer
Nathan
that?
Oakley.
And also, why, when you get to the end of the sphere, don't you walk off the edge?
Oh, because you can't. There's nothing to walk off of. I mean, no matter where you go in this model,
Oh.
and again, you can look this up, and I don't know if you want to do screenshots right now.
Yeah.
But no matter where you go in this model, you're going to run into ice and
What?
snow and more ice and more snow.
Hold
No matter
on.
which way-
That is so stupid. If you go exactly 180 degrees south with a compass, right, you will run into Antarctica. But if you veer left or right from that 180 degrees south, you just continue back to the same point you started at, Mark, completely debunking everything you just spewed out of your lying mouth. What a shame.
Yeah. In his world, there's no missing Antarctica. You just, because it goes all the way around, right? But
It's everywhere. It's 60,000 miles when you measure it out, except the only thing anyone's ever measured was 24,000 miles, right?
Antarctica
Just like we measure
can be
the sun.
missed because it is a smaller continent, like he said, similar in size to Australia.
Which direction you have.
And what would happen if you did get to the edge? Just a wall?
Well, that's just it. One of the big misconception is that Antarctica is the end of the world. No, it's the beginning of the end. Meaning the Antarctic coastline isn't the edge. It's not like the Game of Thrones, this big ice wall. Although
Yeah, where's
it
the
is
edge,
a very
Mark?
high ice
Show us
wall that
pictures.
comes off the ocean. It goes in thousands and thousands.
It goes
of
in
miles.
thousands of
That's
miles.
the big catch. The Americans were looking for this thing for the better part of 30 years. They sent down their the youngest admiral in the history of the Navy, Admiral Byrd, and he flew around in planes for 30 years looking for this damn thing. And then when he found it, and of course they're never going to tell you that he found it, then they put in
But
the
he
Antarctic
knows.
Treaty, the only
And he's
unknown
telling
treaty in the
everybody-
history of treaties that says that
He's telling everybody how far away the dome is.
Like, hang on. Oh, you got to pause. Yeah. He knows the distance to the edge of the dome.
Mhm.
The picture we're looking at right here could be multiple places. It could be North Russia. This could be Greenland. Like, so all they need to do is show you a glacier and some water, and they tell you that the Antarctica is everywhere. It's the stupidest thing I've ever seen. This right here is the reason why the flat Earth model got shut down. the whole entire movement of people got totally destroyed because it takes 2 seconds of thought to understand what Mark is saying is nonsense. Okay. No one's ever been to the edge of any domes ever. Right. And we've been traversing this place for 6,000 years. There's no evidence of any dome or any edge. It's just absolute nonsense. But we can show you guys how the boundaries were set and how you wrap from one spot of the map to the other, and it perfectly works.
That no corporation can go down there and set up shop ever for the end of time. It's not even
So
up for
what do
review.
you think is there? A wall?
Oh yeah, sure. Why not? Some sort of barrier. But remember, it would be
Again, this could be
thousands of miles
Antarctica. This
inland
could be
from
the
beach.
Arctic.
And so the Antarctic Treaty says that
could
you
be a
can't
drawing.
go down there. I mean, yeah, you can go down there and spend
that was artwork.
15,000 pounds and get your pictures taken with penguins and crap like that. But eventually,
This is
you're
an
not gonna
absolute
just be able to
mockery.
run amok.
Pluto,
Yeah,
right?
proof
And
of flat
that
Earth,
made so
right?
much sense to me because this world is based on greed and money and power.
And look at that.
In fact, if you want to start fracking in my backyard next week,
Earth.
you could make that
All
happen.
right, you're gonna
If an oil
psyop
and gas
people,
company.
Darth.
But those same companies aren't even allowed to talk about Antarctica. When have you ever seen that? Ever?
We've already demonstrated that this is not a correct statement.
It's close.
It's close. The horizon will rise in a way that you can prove that we're not on a globe, but it's not exactly to eye level.
Hang on, we have a question in the chat. I'm scrolling back up. The question was arose from light before the tunnel Antia conspicular rays. Let me look up. What's this channel's name here? I don't know if you're seeing the chat too, Jason.
Not the comment that you're talking about.
Light before the tunnel. Anticorpuscular rays mean the sun is below the clouds? Yes. When the light rays shoot up through clouds into the sky, right? It's the exact same thing that's happening when the sun is above the clouds. What Jason explained is it proves observably, repeatably, that the sun is below the clouds and not 92 million miles away, because the light rays shine up through the clouds. Look, yeah, bring it up, please.
These are anti-crepuscular rays where they are shining up. The light rays are going up. It's proof that the sun is below. Just as when you're looking at crepuscular rays, you have proof that the sun is above the clouds. Anti is the proof that the sun is below the clouds. And they look a little bit different, but you have examples like this. I think most of us have seen this.
There's closer ones too.
Yeah. And it happens within local cloud banks as well. Here's a good example of that.
And again, we're not using any Flat Earth Pro content. We just do simple searches on the Google, and you get all the results.
Yeah, these are the proof that the sun is below. Now, you also have ones like this. These are crepuscular rays where the sun is above. Below.
Go back to that last one.
Which one?
The last one that you had on clicked. Not that one. The one,
this
the
one.
anti.
Yeah.
Yes. So I just want to bring people's attention to the point that, okay, if the sun was 3,000 miles up on the AE map and model, when you measure it from 45 degrees north and 45 degrees south, you come up with a measurement of 3,000 miles. Okay. If that was the case, those clouds right there are not 3,000 miles away. They're within your vanishing point, your circle of sight. They're a few miles away. And the fact that the sun is underneath it and the shining light rays, as you can see, created by the gaps in the clouds, indicate that the sun is below those specific clouds. And I want to step this up a notch. Somewhere else on the flat plane, the sun is up in their sky and there's no clouds. There's no crepuscular rays, anti. So the supernatural ability of the sun is it's personal to each and every observer and every camera. They have their own sun, you could say, because somewhere the sun is rising and it's orange color in the sky. Somewhere it's high up and it's like yellowish color. Somewhere it's setting and this whole sky is pink. And this is all happening at the exact same time. This is an evidence that we use to teach people how you're in a supernatural realm. This is not possible in a physical world. If the sun was a physical thing, it could not be below these clouds shining up while we watch and also be high up in the sky somewhere else on the map. That's impossible in your physical atomistic reality.
Nailed it.
Ever. But why does British Petroleum not go down to Antarctica? They can't.
So the way you described it, then it's kind of like the limits of the boundaries of a video game. So do you believe that we're in some kind of simulation?
Whoa.
Whoa, what?
Whoa. What's going on now?
Bingo.
This guy.
Chicken dinner.
This guy.
Winner.
Mr. Verified comes in with, well, it sounds like you're defining boundaries of a video game. Do you think we're in a simulation? What do you think Mark's going to say? He just promoted a physical reality with a dome and a sun and the moon 3,000 miles up doing circles. And do you think he's going to go with simulation? Of course he will. Of course he will. Check it out.
What a dome day, man.
Yeah, I do. But most of the time,
what is your definition of a simulation?
my definition of simulation. Well, I was in the video game industry for years.
Well,
Is that a video game picture?
He's actually going to have a picture up in his slideshow here of him winning some pinball tournament. Yeah,
Pinball. I love pinball.
yeah, pinball wizard.
That's his video game. He was a pinball wizard, and he's calling that a video game industry.
Yeah,
Really? Come on. Are you serious right now?
yeah, but that's his backstory. He's video game guy.
Yeah.
But then he goes around telling everybody we're in the AE map and model dome.
Physical reality, atomistic.
I mean, I used to play video games for a living. I was a video game producer, and they're all striving to be the same thing, which is a virtual reality that the player cannot break out of.
So
A day stands still every day.
yeah, so there you go, a virtual reality. That is the terminology that we are using. We have been using. We say simulation, we say realm, but really virtual reality is probably the best words that we can use for this world. Definitely not holographic. Anybody that says holographic, they're psyoping you. Those things aren't tangible. Holographs aren't tangible. We're in a realm where all the senses are coming in through these avatar bodies, and we see the sun, moon, and stars rotating around each observer. And yes, there are boundaries to this world, like Mr. what is his name? Shaun Attwood. Shaun Attwood.
I don't know why I remembered, but
Yeah.
it's key to point out that from a game design standpoint, you can actually explain things a lot better than the Globers, the people that believe in an infinite reality, right? An infinite universe. Except we know that if you even do the etymology in the word universe, it just means one realm. One realm. That's it. There's one realm. There's no other evidence for anything else, or a dome, or anything like that.
Yeah, well, if he stuck to the truth, if he believes that we're in a simulation, and he actually stuck to that, we wouldn't have a complaint. But then he goes around telling people that we're in a dome.
Yeah, enclosed system, pressurized, right?
But see, this Shaun Attwood's going to take it ultimate, like reverse psychology, super psyop coming up, and that should be obvious when we get to it.
Once you were immersed in it, there's no way to get out because you weren't the access to it. Your memory of it was blocked. So, and by the way, when I got into this whole flat Earth model, I'd love to talk about simulations, but most people don't get it.
Most people
What?
don't get, yeah.
Well, how stupid of a thing is that? Well, we're living in a metaverse world right now where people are making simulations inside of simulations. People absolutely get it.
Yeah, and he's going to be contradicted by this Shaun guy.
Meaning, look, it's
Of course.
20 years since the Matrix, and people still don't understand the concept of the Matrix.
They understand it, Mark. That's
People
so
still
stupid.
people don't understand it.
There's videos where they actually explain how Neo wasn't even the one. It was what was his name? Mr. Anderson, not Anderson, the Smith guy, the Agent Smith. He was the one. He was the one. He fulfilled all the prophecies. People absolutely understand that they were in pods and they were piped in here and they were using us for loosh, mining us, which they absolutely are, right? It's everything that Mark says is absolutely set up to fail. I can't, you know that he's doing this on purpose because there's nobody that could be that wrong and right at the same time. No one.
But all the entertainment companies are trying to build in some sort of virtual reality. We've seen it in like Ready Player One and Free Guy and stuff like that. But it's almost impossible to do because you can't hook up the.
He shows you the North Star trails. I guarantee you he's not going to show you the South Star trails because they look just like this, just circling the other direction.
other senses. but we can build visually amazing worlds right now. I mean, you've seen them out there. The latest GTA, which I don't play because of the whole crime aspect, is a beautiful game, and we can do some wonderful stuff.
Beautiful
And
game.
If it is flat and it
Yeah, but he doesn't play it because of the
Jackass.
crime aspect.
Run around killing people, murdering them, taking their money. Yeah, that's just what the Team Satan wants you to think. It's beautiful. You're all going to be gone soon.
is enclosed, it's probably virtual. No question. The double slit
Probably.
experiment is a big tell.
You can't debunk us that it is completely simulated. Jason and I went, we started truth smacking NASA at the Great American Eclipse, right? We went there, we went into their little convention that they had going on, and we went up to the guy and we started flat earth smacking him. We did it all live, and you guys can see the difference in me when you go back and see how big I was then. And we said to him, we believe and we teach that we're in a simulation. And he said, actually, you can't debunk that. The NASA guy that was there teaching the kids infinite universe, Big Bang nonsense said, yes, absolutely. It is well known that most people that are scientific absolutely know that they live in a virtual reality. Everyone knows. It's not a secret, Mark. This isn't something that's hard to understand. What's hard to understand is that we live on a spinning potato flying through infinite universe, and no one's ever felt the measurement, or no one's ever felt it. No, the water levels out. These are the things.
No parallax in the stars.
Zero parallax.
Even though there's all these 4 different motions of direction.
Yes.
I don't think people in general have much of a problem with simulation theory.
See, he just contradicted Mark. I don't think
Overstood him.
And listen.
Elon Musk said it. It's
Elon
quite
Musk?
mainstream, isn't it?
It's very
This idea that
mainstream.
It's actually very, very likely we live in a simulation.
So there he's contradicted. He's like, oh yeah.
Mark just simply spouted out of his mouth that, it's too hard for people to understand, even though it's the mainstream.
I think what people find hard is this flat world idea, because
that right there is the dumbest thing this guy could possibly say. It's mainstream, but he thinks the hard part is believing that we'd be in a flat world. That's the way it's made, and Mark knows it. He's even going to explain skyboxes coming up.
But the main thing to point out here is the fact that every simulation that guy, I'm going to bet maybe there might be one where there was curvature, but every single simulation or model that's built, every one we've shown you, has had a flat plane in it. There are no, you guys don't understand, the calculations needed to actually have a spherical world would be astronomical, in the sense that you would need, the simulation would crash. Only an idiot would build. I shouldn't say that, but I don't. Maybe the true reality, we don't even know where base reality is, but maybe base reality is spherical. So I don't want to mock that, but I can tell you for sure that the floor of this realm is absolutely flat, and water alone proves that, and the scriptures, but water alone, because we use it to level things out. Google search water level, and it'll tell you that it works on the operation that the two sides of the edges of where the water lay are exactly level to each other, including lakes and oceans. Do the math. If you're going to go from Boston to England and you have a water level and the water's calm across the sea, I don't know if it's ever been like that. I don't know. But it would be exactly the same height at both places. Flat, right? Level. It's so simple. And then yet this Shaun Attwood guy, I completely believe in the simulation, but I just can't wrap my head around how the ground would be flat.
Promoting a heliocentric universe with satellites flying through space and planets, and it's mainstream simulation, but all that, a simulated globe, flying through space. No.
So, we got a question from DJ Jazz. Do the mainstream use the word simulation? Absolutely. Jason and I have showed it. Philip K. Dick in the 70s said, we live in a simulation, you guys. And guess what? The only way you're going to find out is when things start glitching. And we've absolutely showed Mandela's, Jason's name was not in the Bible. His brother's name is Adam. And he asked his parents as a kid, why isn't my name in the Bible? Because Jason's curious like me. We're into data. He read the scriptures. He went through all the names in the index in the back of the scriptures, and there was no name Jason. Now, when you read the scriptures, you go to that same index and search, and you find Jason, a zealot for the Lord. Right? You're like, what? There was a character named Jason. Like, this is his own evidence. I'm telling the story because it baffles me that other people can't see it, right down to the point where they tell you that they filled up. You can't fill up old bottles with new wine. Do you know how ridiculous of a stupid change they tried to pull over? Right? It's retarded because, of course, you can use old bottles. Bottles recyclable. You can use a bottle until it gets a hole in it. Right? But an old wine skin would have leaks all around the seams. It's obvious the way that it was done. And it doesn't take away the veracity of the scriptures because we're able to now do even more. We have more dispensaries at our hands with the internet. We can research any book, right? Any interlineary. We can go into the Strongs. We can look at the etymology in the words that they transliterated from book to book and compare them all. And the ones that all line up and match, we support as the truth. Right. So for them to think that they're in a simulation and that the earth is flat and that the scriptures actually give us the complete playbook, the script of the simulation, that's the problem. Nobody on earth is going to bring you actual. And one last thing, Jason, I know this is a long rant. Anyone like Elon Musk and Neil deGrasse Tyson, ladies and gentlemen, believes that he's in a simulation. Right. I can show you guys. Do your own search. He is another simulation theorist. Nobody will actually bring you, observable, repeatable, testable evidences like Jason and I. We're the only two men on earth that say we're in a simulation / virtual supernatural realm, right? We teach you that, but we actually show you guys, look, the way that the sun and the moon and the stars and rainbows all operate is completely supernatural. We show you guys, we explain it. We tell you that the boundaries, the way that they were set with waters is totally supernatural. This isn't possible in an atomistic reality. And we're the only ones. And, I don't want to say Jason, it's the creator who put in us the curiosity and the investigation. We just simply witness to it. That's it. That's all we do. It's not Jason didn't build it. I didn't build it as far as I know. I might have been there as the plumb bob hath been stretched down from the sky and each star placed in its spot. I might have. And if I was there, I was probably asking if I could help. Let me hang a few of those stars, Dad. You know what I mean? So all we can do is just bring you guys the truth. You can witness to it too. And you could, if you guys and anyone can debunk us, please, the comment section is ready to go.
Yeah, in the comment section, we have a 007 that says Saturn is a supercomputer. No, it's a light in the sky that we've recorded. You can...
is that God channel?
It's no different than Jupiter, Mars. It's one of the wandering, right? It's one of the wandering. It's simply a light that rotates around the observer, and we see it at different places in the ecliptic. And yes, it has spiritual meanings associated, but it's not a supercomputer. No,
and you can't land on it. We got this one guy, Adrian. He calls himself God. He turns all the comments off. Another guy that won't defend his truth, because again, everybody on the other side of the screen, if you're calling yourself a truther, we're absolutely coming for you. We're calling you out. We're exposing your lies, because this is the time where everything is put straight, where we get the truth, about the straight, flat plane of Earth, right? And we're going to continue to do it over and over again.
Well, let's keep going here. We're into the simulation stuff. So this is the gravy of the video.
Is that a sashishi time?
In our simulation,
if you got it,
would have to be lying for that to be true.
Well, or NPCs, which is the concept behind Free Guy. But yeah, and by the way,
great movie.
Yeah, Mark always refers to movies like they're proof of stuff. All right,
that's Mark's proof. Get you some simulation proof. Have you seen The Matrix?
Yeah.
Right. Boom. You're in a simulation.
But there are concepts delivered through these movies that we can use for like parabolic explanations. So we do use them.
They parabolically they quote scriptures, just like all your mainstream stories, Romeo and Juliet, Adam and Eve. They take the truth from the scriptures. So do all your so-called religions. They take pieces of the truth and then they distort it, twist it, and serve it to you because, the majority of the NPCs in here love a lie. They love the lie. It feels good. They're like, ooh, we could escape this realm. They tell themselves. Chris Geo said he was going to fly out of here. Jason called him up on the phone and said, actually, no, you're not getting out, bro. The only way out is through the name Yahawahashai, right? Remember that?
That's it.
Anyways, keep going. I'll stop talking.
A lot of people, again, what you just said, it's a paradox. Lots of people can understand now the
not a paradox
realities. But what people forget is video games are based on completely flat models.
Ooh.
Meaning there are no curves in video games.
So he's speaking for simulations and how they are built on flat planes. 3 axes, X, Y, Z, right? 3
vanishing
dimensions.
points, right? And a vanishing point in the game. And as you move around the board, you get different vanishing points.
So he's smashing his dome earth model as he's speaking right now.
I mean, the other guy, it's just made him look like a hypocritical jackass. He might as well step up and say something smart, right? Mark has to save himself. Again, one other thing I'll point out really quick is anyone who comes and lies to you, they do it with a little piece of truth, because you will never trust anyone if they just lie. The only problem is when someone comes with just truth, most people hate it.
You just don't know any better because, well, it's like, well, you can't see the curve. And it's also completely, it's not even a snow globe. It's boxed off.
Measure it.
The skybox system.
It's boxed off. Skybox.
So I know what he's referring to, because, ladies and gentlemen, this is the first time I've heard this. I'm just riffing. He's talking about Skeeber's terrarium, which is a square thing on a bunch of shock mounts with it looks like a prison. Right? It's the most retarded model you've ever seen. So now we have a squared off round AE map pizza pie domed Earth reality.
Well, the skybox is a term that's actually used in the video game industry as far as how they render the sky, because they don't use true circles, and it's not built off of a curved spherical Earth. Right? Everything's built off of a flat plane, and how things are rendered to the observer in a video game, they use skyboxes.
Is what they do with the ceiling. Like, everything has right angles because computers can't understand circles. They hate them. They only deal with right angles, which is why pixels are perfectly square. So
you can't navigate with a circle.
Well, and his statement that pixels are perfectly square is once again not true. They can be square, but they are rendered in various different shapes. They can be octagons. This is where octagons, hexagrams. Hexagram is one of the ways that pixels can be rendered. I did a little research on this topic because he said pixels are a square, and I'm thinking to myself, is every little pixel on my screen that I'm looking at right now, is it a square? Well, when you look it up, no, it's not. So it's just disinformation on top of disinformation.
It's this weird paradox, in video games. Like, for example, we have to put in the distance. We have to put in haze in the distance, fake atmosphere, so you can't see too far, which also ties into what we're dealing with our real world. Well, our real world, which is you can't see too far because the atmosphere thickness. Lots of people will say, and I haven't.
What's the name of his podcast?
So now he's going from saying that we're in a simulation. Now all of a sudden he's talking about atmosphere thickness inside some dome. Right? He just switched off of the fact that he's promoting that we're in a simulation. Now all of a sudden we're in a dome, and because of the thickness of the air, we can only see so far. He's totally shifted away from the fact of the way resolution works. Right? If you have a certain pixel size, you can only have a certain resolution that looks clear, and then once you expand beyond that, it's all pixelated.
Everything becomes fuzzy and despotized on a small scale. Everything, including when we look at our own cells, right? Don't be fooled by the virologists that tell you they can see your DNA. Guess what, ladies and gentlemen? It's all CGI.
In the chat, which is, why can't you see Japan from California? Why can't you see Europe from New York? And why can't you see Mount Everest from everywhere? Well, it's because you're not breathing in nothing. What we're breathing in right here is a
retarded.
Gas.
Hold on.
A couple gases. It
has nothing to do with the gaseous nature of the sky, which is absolutely translucent. It's clear.
Well, some days you have fog, some days you have haze.
Yes, and you can actually judge and measure the distance that those fog days will actually bring you to, which is probably the worst natural thing to deal with, is really heavy fog. But at the end of the day, the distance that you can see is set off by the distance that you have to your vanishing point. And the higher in altitude you rise, the larger the circle of sight will be to your vanishing point. Now, Mount Everest, if it was 20 times its size, and you'd be able to see it from a lot further away. So the taller something is, the further it can see, and it can be seen from the plane. This works both ways. And No, absolutely not. The same reason that a ship or a boat disappears from the bottom up as it crosses the vanishing point is the same reason why we can only see 3 miles at 6 foot high at the edge of an ocean. That's it. At that 3 mile point, it crosses off your vanishing point, and you see the tallest part of the ship, the mast, the top of the mast of the ship. If it's a sail ship or whatever, you will see the top of that, because I had explained to you guys, the tallest part has the largest viewable circle of sight too. It works both ways. And Mark is a jackass because he knows this. He watches our videos. He's the one who got us censored years ago.
And so he's got the graphic up on the screen right now with the Freemason New World Order United Nations AE map and model. So yeah, this is part of the false economy. He says, isn't it ironic that those that control the globe have a flat earth map in their logo? Well, this is not a flat earth map. It's not.
No,
it's a top-down projection of a globe.
That's right. With the south portion of the sphere skewed to infinity around it. It's absolutely not a flat earth model. It's a globe earth projection.
It's not even a map. There's
like a 12-year-old could figure this out in 5 minutes. 5 minutes it could take a 12-year-old. If you research the map, you get bing. This is a globe earth switched projection where the south part of the sphere has been skewed to infinity, and they take Antarctica off because it would look stupid. It doesn't match reality at all. And it's got 33 sections.
Not only that, you can't call something a map that doesn't have a scale to it. And an AE projection cannot have a scale to it. It can't, because it's shrunk at the center and expanded to infinity at the outside. So there is no scale, which means it's not even a map.
It's mostly nitrogen, a little bit of oxygen, and some trace gases. And that gets thickness, gains thickness over time. No different than water. Why, when you dive, if
Nonsense.
you've dived with anybody, at 200 feet down, you can't see the sun, even on a bright summer day. Same thing with the atmosphere.
So in the chat, they're asking about your religious beliefs, which ties into my next question, which is, if we are in a simulation, who designed it and what is the purpose of it? I mean, what are we?
Great question. Who designed it? Do you think Mark's going to give the answer as to who designed this world? No.
Okay. No, it's a good one. And I'm glad
we
you
have a
guys got
question.
that.
Yeah.
So someone in the chat asked a great question. Are you sticking to meteorites being parts of stars broken off and falling to the earth?
So here, I'm going to give you two suppositions. Again, when I tell you guys that I don't know for sure, I'm going to be honest with you guys and tell it to you straight. One, when the Great Flood took place, right, the earth split open throughout the whole entire map. All these huge geysers, what do they call them now? The Ring of Fire is one of them. So these cavernous places exploded outwards. There was mountains all over the earth. It blasted up into the atmosphere, right? So chunks of that could be actually up there. I don't know. It's a supposition. That's one theory. The other theory, it could be an effect added that shooting stars take place, and throughout different parts of the sky, you'll get at different times of the year. So, you get what do we get? There's a bunch of different meteor showers throughout the year that you could track, right? The Orinids and the this and the that and the Coriolis, the Borealis, they get all these different meteor showers. And until a chunk of something comes down and lands into the earth, and we can go and actually investigate it, because that's never happened. We don't have any evidence in these craters that Jason has on the screen. None. No one has any. The pieces of, what do they call that? Petrified wood that people try to pass off as fallen craters is nonsense. We don't have any evidence of it. So the other possibility, like I'd said, is it's a filter added to the sky feature. Jason was talking about the sky box that Unreal Engine uses for epic games. You just add in the filter, boom. It's called a shooting star filter. And then you hit random, and then you set the size of the shooting stars and the distance. And no one has ever seen a shooting star come down, hit the earth, explode, and then evidence taken. And I mean, my life is 41 years now, 41 and a half. And I've never witnessed, now I've seen shooting stars, but I've never seen one come down, boom, hit the ground. And then I went and grabbed this crazy looking space rock. It's an absolute myth.
Yeah. So how come in every single one of these pictures where they say that this was a falling rock from heaven, right? It fell out of the sky, hit the earth, it left this divot here. How come there's no rock?
No rock, no evidence. We got another question, Jason. This one's from Eddie the Man. He says, looks like the creator of our realm didn't mean to disclose us the dynamics, data mechanics, and parameters of the realms. Okay, so if we go into what the scriptures say, it's a challenge. Thus, can you tell me where the stars come forth? Can you tell me the boundaries of the earth and the grains of sand, right? It's a question. It has been an honor of a king to search out the matters of the realm, it says in the scriptures. Jason was the first one, not to steal your thunder, brother, but you came out and said, well, it looks like the earth was created in a stereographic way, that a deception lay there for certain individuals to take a buyout. And it was also created in a way that you could absolutely testable, repeatable, observe what it is, and then witness to that truth as well. So there's two paths. That's how amazing the simulation we're in. You can absolutely take the map that we show, the model, and you can three-dimensionally wrap it to a sphere, and everything lines up exactly the way the ball earther would need it to demand it to work. And we've actually shown this in debates. We asked the ball earthers that we debated, what projection do you use? Because people don't use a globe to navigate anywhere. No one has ever had a plane with a globe in it where they were looking at that globe and it was telling them where to go. It's never, right? And when you come down to it, it's the oblique Hotine stereographic Mercator projection that absolutely comports to what we can actually go out and measure in reality.
So this right here is what we can measure. All right, this is the measurable. So you can set a camera up, you can have it set at the horizon, you can see when the sun rises and from what angle. You can do the measurements as to how high it gets in the day, how long it's up, all these things. The speed of the sun. Every single one of these things is measurable, and what they've done is they put it together in an algorithm, and they understand it so well that they have the analemma, they have the 6 gates. So yeah, a lot of this is extremely definable. We literally know down to the 100th of a degree, right, and down to the second for any location on Earth.
And so if you take this circle of sight that Jason's showing and you drop it down on the projection, the map that we use, it absolutely comports with it on a small micro scale. So this is how you actually map out the larger scale map, because they said that they flew over it and took pictures and stitched those together just like they did for the globe, because you can't get high enough to take a picture of the realm. Because of the way that our circle of sight is set up, and Jason said that everything gets fuzzy on a small scale, despotized, you cannot see. So this is why we use the projection that we do, is because it lines up and comports with reality on the small scale, what we can measure.
Well, let's keep going through this.
Which is who built it and why? It's probably the most important question. Most people get around the flat part, which is it can only be one of two answers. One is an older and more powerful civilization than ourselves, obviously.
So older and more powerful. He doesn't take it down to who. He's
just a civilized group.
Yeah, older, more powerful.
He's
like
broad stroking it.
Mm-hmm.
Or the divine.
The divine.
Oh, the divine.
And at that point, you're kind of splitting hairs, because one man's advanced tech is another man's
splitting hairs.
He's not really putting in the effort to figure out who created the Earth, did he?
It was very generalized. Very generalized.
So, do I think God is a programmer? Yeah, I do. Absolutely. We didn't invent
God.
Can't deny it.
Not much of a researcher.
God real?
Yeah, the word God was invented 600 years after Christ. All right, it comes from Germanic pagan and is a reference to Odin or Gadriel, demon that seduced Eve. All right, so all of a sudden, God is a programmer in Mark's book.
And some of the design features of this place are amazing.
Well, that was nice of him to say.
Yes, I do. Was I raised in a born-again evangelical Christian home? Yeah, I was. But I fell away from that when I got into tech.
Masonic one, right?
Obvious reasons.
Yeah.
He shows his dad's Masonic hats and clothes, and the group, and his grandfather was a master Mason.
Well, evangelical is all you need to hear to know that it's not true Christianity. evangelical is
Religion.
well, and it's the tiny hat supporting people too. It is.
Those that call themselves those.
They're not them.
And got pulled kind of back, not back into the church, but back into spirituality when I got into this. Because if it was built,
Look at this graphic.
There's your Earth. There's your Earth right there, ladies and gentlemen.
He's added this specifically because if it was created, we'll hear what he has to say. But he's got God up here. He's got the sun, moon, and stars up here. He's got the floating.
There's 7. He's got the 7 luminaries.
Yeah, the floating rock.
Floating rock
in
Earth.
space here with no dome, no edge in the water. All right.
Yeah.
Now
South,
listen to what
South
he
America.
listen to what he says here.
Oh,
This
you notice there's no Antarctica in this projection.
no Antarctica. This is the graphic that he added. So listen to him again. This is key.
back, not back into the church, but back into spirituality when I got into this. Because if it was built, if it was created like this, then it was created by someone. And this just screams intelligent design.
This just screams intelligent design, and he's got this graphic up on the.
Oh,
This
wow.
screams intelligent design.
Painful.
Ooh. No, this screams stupidity right here. Not intelligent design.
Created by someone. And this just screams
Someone.
intelligent design. And science doesn't want to go there.
Laughs.
Which, it's the opposite of what science says. Science says you're on a little tiny spinning ball covered in a little bit of water and smoke flying through an impossible universe. And you're just left over from the Big Bang. And we say, no, it's probably the easier option, which is this. And
It's a good meme.
99.99% of the people believe the illusion, like the Matrix or the TV show.
The Matrix.
Or one of those things.
Oh, look at the clouds, everybody.
And that's what you go with. I mean, and by the way,
Is that a globe Earth right there? Is it
who's to say there is space? Why can't it just be this sitting on somebody's desk?
sitting on somebody's desk? He's got to.
Oh, wow.
He's got to bomb the idea. This is going to be some snot-nosed kid. We're just sitting on some kid's desk. Why can't it be that? He does everything he can to not give credit to the creator.
Who's to say there isn't
Somebody's saying that we can't-
tiny things living in that thing right now? And one more thing, the planetarium argument, which is when you go into a planetarium, and I know that kind of dates me, you are looking at a projection on a screen. All this, does the moon look spherical? Yes. Can you land on it? No. Why not? Because it's just an image on the ceiling.
I wouldn't say it looks
And
spherical.
if you brought somebody in
No.
from, I don't know, an old school Amish community that's never
More
seen
of a
tech in their
disc-like.
life, that would just blow their minds, right? It's like, holy smokes.
Nor does the light work
Oh.
spherically
No.
on the moon either.
No Amish person's ever looked up at the sky before.
No, I mean, come on, everybody. Everything Mark says is just nonsense. I can't even believe he says this stuff.
What is wrong with it? Why does the sky look like this? It's like, no, it's an illusion.
Mark, here's my issue with this.
Everything's
it
an
feels
illusion,
like there are
true,
two
except for
separate
heart,
theories.
soul.
One is simulation theory and one is flat Earth theory.
Ooh.
Well, listen to that false dichotomy.
Yeah.
It's either a simulation or a sphere. Are you kidding me? Come on, buddy. You're limiting yourself a little bit.
He's doubling down here. It's either simulation or flat. It couldn't be that we have a 3-axis, 3-dimensional space in a virtual world. No, it has to be heliocentric, everything flying through infinite space if it's a simulation, according to this guy.
And a lot of your arguments point to simulation theory, which I think a lot of people are right behind, that it could be real.
Right
that
behind.
It could be just something on someone's desk. I think a lot of people do
We
agree
could
with
just
that.
be on someone's desk.
Flat Earth theory seems to suggest, just by its name, that we're not in a simulation, which a lot of people think as well.
No.
What?
That's the dumbest thing I've heard.
It was super, I don't want to say like an inversion of the truth, right?
Yeah.
Like, you would definitely build the place flat with the largest quantity of substance, what we can use to actually make sure that what we're building is flat. The water, right? It goes hand in hand.
3D space. It's literally how these programs work.
Well, okay, we're not. But the Earth is flat. And a lot of your for example, the Van Allen belt trap, right? And you said this
Belt
scientist
trap.
just ran away. Well, I looked up this about 30 seconds before coming on here. I said, what's the Van Allen belt trap? I don't know what that is. It's a bit of radiation that if you go through, it can be dangerous, right? But there are huge gaps that you can go through that aren't as strong radiation. There are parts of it.
So he did
When they asked the go ahead. When they asked
30 seconds of research, and he found gaps that they can go through the Van Allen belt in.
Yeah, when they asked the astronauts, how did you guys manage to get through this dangerous, deadly radiation that would kill us instantly? Because that's what modern science says. They go, oh, we just didn't know about it, therefore we weren't affected by it. Because they didn't have any radiation shielding on any of their so-called spaceships, right? None of it. Like, and the fact that Mark's not calling that out is hilarious.
And that took me 10 seconds. Now, who do we believe? You're right. I'm just believing that information, right? I understand that that's what you're probably thinking. But at the end of the day, as human beings, I suppose on the one hand, we have to be vigilant against, government could be lying to us and that kind of thing. But on the other hand,
Shows that at the same
surely
time.
we go
Wow.
with the scientists
The
of
government
today.
lying map.
I mean, how sure are you,
Perfectly
Mark, out of
timed.
100? How sure are you of flat Earth theory?
And then this is
The periodic table of elements.
on an atomistic.
An atom. Oh,
Yeah.
I
This
feel
guy
like
is
throwing
just
up.
Pure Kabbalism, pure materialism, pure atomism.
Yeah, you've never seen a picture of what that man's hand is holding. It's an absolute made-up construct. There's no atoms with electrons and neutrons and protons spinning around it.
Quarks.
It's all quarks and gluons and all this stuff is just speculated nonsense. And he's like glorifying it here.
Oh, 99.999%. I used to be only like 95% when I started this thing. But the reinforcement I got from the subject matter experts, which I interviewed on my channel, and they came to me unsolicited, they all said the same thing. And
But
nobody
it's dangerous. 99.999% about anything is very dangerous, isn't it? That's, Dunning.
Here's what we're yes.
Oh, there's Mark's computer background.
There's his background. He's got this trophy, 1994. That's supposed to be Mark, I guess. Pinball Wizard wins world title. Langley resident Mark Sargent displays the world championship trophy he won in, can't read it, pinball competition.
I bet you I know how he won. You know what he did? He was able to change the clock speed of the bumpers inside the pinball table when no one was looking, and he was able to just constantly hit it in the spot that got the high score. He clock speeded it, right?
No, I don't know. I think he cheated and somehow just changed his score. I think that's how he won.
In Kruger levels, that's like, being the more sure you are suggests you want to believe it.
No. Come on, 0.0001%. Of course, anyone can be wrong on just about anything.
I mean, it's too sure. I mean, you're too.
Oh
certain.
no! I don't think it's dangerous. I absolutely believe this. I absolutely believe this. No question. And by the way, when it comes to, I know when you said that people, the blurring of the lines, the only problem we have nowadays is virtual reality, because we've done it in pop culture for a number of years now, has become a very accepted thing because we've been beating people over the heads with it since the late 90s, right? Well, flat Earth predates that by a long way. Just because we're now talking about it in different terms doesn't make it any less, valid. It just means that we now have different terms to describe it. And so, yes, I absolutely love to say, if it's virtual, it probably looks like this, because in our virtual worlds, the ones...
It's asteroids, right? No.
So when he's saying it's virtual and it looks like this, he's referring to the circular dome where
he's
know
covering
that
his one eye. With the snow globe. The snow globe is his favorite catchphrase.
It looks like this.
This is what we built. Literally this, only it's squared off at the edges.
Oh, hello. I just want to scream this one out. So this is where the title comes from. He says, if we live in a virtual world, listen to this whole thing.
We love to say, if it's virtual, it probably looks like this, because in our virtual worlds, the ones we create, this is what we built. Literally this, only it's squared off at the edges.
Only it's squared off at the edges. He's showing this, right? He's saying this is what we build, except it's squared off at the edges. Oh,
So ridiculous.
Mark.
It's so ridiculous.
Squared off at the edges.
Somebody,
no
there's a debate going on in the chat
Yeah.
that I want to quickly address. So somebody brought up that they can't trust their vision or their observable things because he's saying that it's fluid. So the realm is fluid, he's saying. Let me see if I can find the exact wording here. Our reality is fluid in essence of some kind of electromagnetic field and waves. Therefore, observations are fluid too. So you're absolutely wrong. You're wandering off into vain imaginations when you can go outside with a compass every single day and you can measure the sun's rise. You can measure its speed. And every single time you will get an absolute, not fluid, static truth, verifiable, observable, and repeatable. You can do it yourself. So for anyone to state that we would have different length days, we would have different length years, everything would just be all nonsense if it was some fluid reality. We absolutely, if anybody ever tries to tell you that you can't trust your observable, repeatable evidence that you go out and see yourself, stay as far away from that person as possible. If somebody tells you we can't figure anything out, stay as far as you can from those people.
So we're at January 12th right now. With this model, here's January 13th. If you have this pin on your location, you can know the exact rise time of the sun and angle. It's giving it to you to the 100th of a degree. 100th of a degree. If you're going to suggest that there's any variation, so at every minute and second of the day, it's giving you the exact position of the sun. Measurable. You can do this for any day of the year, for any location on Earth. So the only way this works is if it's exactly in the position that it needs to be all the time. So to say that high humidity and that the sky's being distorted, that would actually put the sun in a different location. It would put the moon in a different location. You would put the stars in a different location. You wouldn't get perfect star trails if it was all variable and it was all wishy-washy all over the place. No, it's absolutely specific and exact. It is.
And then in Enoch, you go on and says, so it comes that its course becomes daily longer and its course nightly shorter. And this is the law of the course of the sun. And his return is often as returns 60 times and rises, the great luminary, which is named the sun forever and ever. And that which thus rises is the greatest luminary, and so named according to its appearance, according to Yahawahashai and his commands. As he rises, so he sets, and he decreases not. He rests not, but runs day and night, and his light is sevenfold brighter than that of the moon. But as regards to size, they are the same. I want to point out here that this is exactly what we have on the screen when Jason's playing that animation. The sun rises and sets, and it decreases not. There's no fluidity to its path. It's perfect in its movements and its courses. And not only that, I'll spare you guys the understanding, because it goes on to state 30 mornings and it sets in the west. And again, in the fifth western portal, on that day, the day decreases by 2 parts. He goes through every single motion of the luminary of the sun, and it is absolutely repeatable, testable, and verifiable for every single person on Earth. All they need to do is open the program by Andrew Marsh that Jason has up on the screen. They need to go outside with a compass, and they can view the sun, shoot the sun, we used to say in one of the video games I played in the early 80s. Shoot the moon and shoot the sun. You can observe the time, you can observe the angle, you can watch it throughout the day, and you will notice the sun, he does his rising and setting, he decreases not, he rests not, because everywhere on Earth the sun is up sometime.
Everything,
right?
Everything that stands vertically on Earth, be it just a stick stuck in the ground, a stop sign, a mailbox, a car, a human standing still, every single thing is going to cast a shadow, and that shadow is going to be based on this right here. This is going to be the azimuth and elevation of the sun for every location on Earth. The shadows prove that what we're saying is absolutely true. We demonstrated this in a recent live stream where we used a camera from South Africa. Right? There's so many ways to prove what we're saying is real. It's the testable, measurable, repeatable evidence. It is.
And go figure, the character in the scriptures who didn't die, he was such a good righteous scribe. He did everything that the Father needed him to do. He was translated out of the simulation without having to die. And we are reading from his book that he wrote exactly, precisely how everything works in 2022. Just let that sink in, okay?
So just remember, Mark said, this is how it works, except squared off edges.
So if we're in a simulation,
Yes.
and the Matrix gave us a heads up on that,
Yeah.
is Keanu Reeves in on it? And why is the designer a bit like, a serial killer who's not been caught and wants to throw a clue out there to try and
The
reveal
why.
what the truth is?
I believe there's something else. Sorry, again, I don't know how much time we have.
10
There's,
minutes.
I believe there's another layer to this, which is, let's get to the why real fast, because a lot of people will ask, okay, what's outside of this?
All right, so the why is a question that can only be answered by a creator of something. Right? To ask the question why of anybody that's not the creator of something is stupid. Only the creator of something can say why. If you want a house built, right, the architect that designs the house that you're going to live in, he's the only person you can ask, why is there a window here? Why is there a beam here? Why is the roof this pitch? Why is the house this size? Because it had to have been designed and built by somebody. And that person is the only person that has the knowledge of the why.
So, it was great when Dirth brought up the fact, like, I want you to build a room beside my, and he tried to say, oh, that's impossible. It was the stupidest thing I've ever heard. But even more stupid, if you look on the screen, anyone that's done any truth research knows that when you see people promoting pizzas, it's linked to an FBI really, really, really bad, disgusting thing that there's a very special place in the pit of Guyana for those people. He's got the AE map. We call it the pizza pie map, flying through outer space, because that's what the Flat Earth Society was preaching, which Mark is a card-carrying member of the Flat Earth Society. He doesn't hide it. He's now showing you exactly how stupid this thing is. He's got it as a pizza. And not only that, this is the dodo bird projection. If you look carefully at it, they have it nice and stylized in the shape of a dodo bird, which is a fairy tale bird, right? So I just want people to notice that this is what he promotes on his channel, Mark.
Inside a square box, of course, right?
If this is where we live, then what's outside of this? What are they doing? Is the person, is the creator lurking about? Is it a big joke, or is it more of a novelty thing? Meaning, I believe that if this world is 99.9% conflict, which it is, it doesn't matter how beautiful, how powerful, how talented, how rich you are, you always have something to complain about. Always. No one's ever completely satisfied.
What?
Even monks sitting on
Not
a
true.
Tibetan mountaintop still have to deal with mortality.
Lies.
You can't escape it. If that's the case, then what is outside of here isn't unlimited.
Enoch escaped it.
And I think it is cyclical. I think the universe runs off of novelty.
So right there, he denied
And-
Yahawahashai's passion. He denied the death and resurrection. He denied it because he absolutely escaped mortality. And he showed us this is the way. These are the bodies you're going to have. Do as I did. And he taught us everything about it. Mark just absolutely showed you that he is an absolute Satanist. And by Satanist, that means an adversary of the truth. Not like someone eating babies, right? The scriptures state that the Satanel was cursed and became Satan, which means adversary. Adversary to the truth, to the Christ, the Son of the living Father.
And he's just pulling stuff out of his ass. Like he has no proof for the dome. He has no proof for his theory of why this world was created. He has, it's not even rational. He's just making up dumb theories.
He just denied the Christ who came here to tell us that my Father created it like this, right? And not only that, but his words still ring true today. If you can't understand simple earthly things, how are you ever going to understand the mysteries to the heavenly things? You won't understand it. Mark doesn't understand it, and it's sad. He's going to be destroyed because of it.
And I think it is cyclical. I think the universe runs off of novelty. And
Universe.
why we always ask constantly, hey, what's new? What's new? What's new? I mean, how many people are going crazy because of Raina?
There's nothing new under the sun. Again, he knows exactly what he's spewing.
Wouldn't have touched 5 years ago.
Toss a coin to The Witcher.
The Witcher.
The Witcher.
Are you watching The Witcher?
I've watched. Oh, please, I blew.
And there's a listen to this. Look, pause it.
Even
Pause it. Go back. So, this was a book I believe that Nathan Roberts wrote. That Mark and Patricia.
No, this is Mark's book.
They plagiarized it from Nathan, or this is just Mark's book. I could be wrong. I know that all happened as well. But what I want you guys to understand is the satanic agenda, the adversarial agenda to the truth, wanted to bring out and teach the new disinformation to the children. This was a huge part of their psyop. They're now indoctrinating children to believe in an even greater lie than the sphere. This one's even worse, right? This is an absolute joke. The fact that they want to market this to children.
Well, and here he is explaining that he believes that we're in a simulation, and this is a completely physical model. This is where the sun and moon the sun has to be a gaseous ball 3,000 miles up. The moon has to be a floating rock 3,000 miles up, doing circles around a single polar point all inside of a dome. That's a material model. He's not teaching simulation whatsoever. He's doing everything he can to discredit it.
Watching The Witcher.
I've watched. Oh, please, I blew past that. I'm watching. I'm watching even stuff. It's like, okay, you watch
a show on Netflix.
Here's 5 other recommended shows. Well, okay, fine. I'll just watch.
I played the character for
but
Christmas.
I do believe that
Sorry,
what's outside is unlimited. Now, if you want to call it heaven or nirvana or Shambhala or whatever it is,
Heaven, Nirvana, Shambhala. He's not much of a Christian here.
Now he's a spaceman with a guitar, huh?
Mm-hmm.
Fine. But I think that eventually what happens is you run out of novelty and you have to refresh. You have to gain perspective. So you come to a place like this. And it's limited.
Come to a place like this.
He's teaching reincarnation, karma, salvation. That's what he's teaching.
Lifespan.
Which, again, is rooted in the truth. They took pieces of the truth and then they mock and psyop you into believing that there's some ancestral gods in the sky and all this other nonsense. When the Yahawahashai said, how do you be born? How do you get into this kingdom? You have to be reborn. And then you have to be reborn from the spirit of creation, which then identifies you as the children of the light from the beginning, and you'll end up going into the next aeon, right? We know the way in. It's through the belief in the death and resurrection of the Christ, the Son of the living Father. And through that sacrifice that he did, we then repent and we turn and we act like him. We live like him. And the Father loves us the same as he loves him. That's the way that this all works. And you don't get any of that from any of these people. All they do is just lead you off. Mark's gone into Buddhism and Hinduism and everything else but the actual truth.
And he's sharing a fake image, right? This is
real. You know what? It's why when you look at our numbers, when you see the statistics and our views, it's because people don't want the truth. They want everything but the truth, right? We could come out here and lie. We won't ever, because we care about the truth more than anything else in this realm. But if we wanted to, we could just spew lies and nonsense, and I bet you we would have hundreds and hundreds of thousands of views. But we here want to fight for the truth at all costs. And we're happy that just everybody that's in the chat, that you guys make it, that the people that are the lurkers, we love you too. We know that you guys are out there and you're just learning with us. That's one of the most important points that I wanted to make, is that, I really appreciate everybody that shows up and everybody that listens to us, because, this is the most important time to us when we get to talk and share truths with each other. That's why we're here, to search the game out, find the treasures, and create heavenly ones that we're going to get to enjoy for 1,000 years together, you guys. It's going to be great.
It's not even a real image. So the sun right here, it's got a hot spot underneath it, right? These clouds aren't casting shadows in any directions. It's just straight down light. But here you have a cloud that's casting a shadow like this. So the sun would have to be way, way back here in order to be creating that shadow, right? So the whole thing is it's not even a real image. Just everything that he shares is a psyop.
But that's his curvature proof, right? Oh, fisheye lens. Again, anytime anyone puts globe Earth in front of your eyes or spherical Earth in front of your eyes, except when they're debunking it, like we are, they're subconsciously mind controlling you into your presuppositional path that you believed you're wiring in your head. You thought you lived on this spinning sphere. So they just repeat it over and over again, like Math Powerland does, right? With his, he says he painted the sphere, but he's putting a sphere in front of you.
Sorts of different sufferings, line from the Matrix. Human beings seem to define their reality through misery and suffering, which is true. And then you go back.
He can quote a movie.
Yeah, I just think, like I say, I think if it's simulation theory, then it doesn't look like anything. It's just a computer.
If it's simulation, it doesn't look like anything. So
you
even
don't have eyes.
Even Mark is smart enough to be able to debunk this one.
Look like a
Well,
single thing.
don't be so sure, because remember, even when we build stuff, it doesn't matter how good a computer you are or how big the computer system is. You have to define the borders. You have to define the boundaries. Now, yes,
Everything to be built has to be defined. You can't build a house without a blueprint. So
Without exterior walls, right?
Yeah, you can't hire a
Well, you might be
contractor
able
and
to
say,
do that.
"Well, I want a house." He's like, "Okay." Without it being defined, he could make it any size, any shape, any layout, anything that he wanted. You have to define what it is that you want. You have to have a blueprint that the house is going to look like in order to be willing to even hire the contractor and have the house built. It has to be defined. You can't get a building permit without it being defined. You can't just tell them, "Oh, I'm going to build a house." You can't do that. You have to define it.
you're right in the way that the whole wave particle thing. Whereas if you're in a computer simulation, if a tree falls in
CGI.
a forest and you aren't there to see it, does it still make a sound? Well, now we know with computer simulations, no, because it hasn't been rendered yet. There is no tree. It's just over
hold
there
on.
in blank.
I could debunk that. That's another asinine supposition that he made through generalization of non-static or non. So, okay, when you walk through a forest and there's a tree that fell 100 years ago, the tree still fell, right? No one was there to hear it. So therefore no one was able to observe or record a sound. But the fact that the tree's down there and you can see the moss, you can measure, okay, the tree was here for this long, it's this much decomposed, and so on. You can still tangibly measure that. He's just making it out like, oh, the simulation just creates things out of blue just because you walk into that area. That's absolutely not true. It's not true. We can measure history. We can measure the striations, right, in the way that the waters that pumped throughout the map left the different layers. We can measure it all. We can do all of these things, and that doesn't mean that it's just being created. But there is a key there, Jason. I don't know how you could explain it, but things do happen on an interesting way, how everything in here is constantly refreshing. So there's a refresh rate. There's so many things that we could define and put into categories, but just to simply say that there was no trees, just, again, that's stupid.
Yeah, no, it's a very valid point. The tree had to have, the pattern for it has to have existed. It's not just rendered on site where there's no pattern to it. So the tree was grown from a seed that came from another tree. It took place at a certain time period, and it fell at a certain time period too, due to age and weather conditions and all that kind of stuff too. So all those things are being factored all the time, everywhere. A footprint left. So if you leave a footprint in a mud that ends up becoming hard, that footprint will be there until something erases the footprint. It will be there the whole time.
Blank code. It hasn't been drawn. There is no freaking tree.
Yeah.
But
It's a nice thought.
But does it exist as a border? Yes. GTA exists as a world. It has boundaries. Fortnite has boundaries. Everything has boundaries. Eventually, you have to build the boundaries in.
A viewer hang tight, wants to know if aliens are real. And earlier on, you mentioned about ancient civilizations.
Yes.
Do you think that there was a fusion of alien?
So this is where the conversation gets sidetracked. They don't really talk simulation much anymore. Now all of a sudden he wants to know about aliens. So Mark's going to talk about aliens like he's an authority. And once again, it's going to be some unprovable. He's going to take it to something that happened in Germany, some Nuremberg 2 thing, and that a bunch of people drew the same picture. Wow. You got a bunch of people to draw the same picture. See, there's no evidence for these aliens. That's one of the conspiracies that we've pointed out for a long time now, that what people call aliens is demons. So the creator of this world that's defined in the Holy Scriptures, we learn from the creator of this world that yes, there are spirit entities too. And some people can actually see them. They manifest.
Yeah. It's done through ritualistic sacrifices and many other things. And you can easily find all this information out. And what they like to do is they like to tell truths and then manipulate people after that. And, you know, my suggestion is always to talk directly with the Father, Yahawah, always, for everything. Never ask or never take drugs to try to get a spiritual lesson. Do drugs if you want to get high, or if you're in pain, or I don't know. Drugs are not the way to get the truth. But always remember that whatever you encounter, you always ask, who are you and who do you serve? These are Jason and I. This is the way that we deal with this realm. And if somebody doesn't tell me, and that's why you find guys like David Weiss or Mark, Mark will not define who he serves or who he believes is the creator. He won't define it. That's the absolute thing that a demon would do.
Yeah, so they talk about aliens and stuff like that. Mark, once he leaves this interview, he lets it play long enough where this Shaun Attwood guy goes on to mock Mark. As soon as he's gone, he's got this co-host. They sit there, they mock him, and he goes on to explain that the reason why he had a flat earther on was for the metrics. He's doing it because it's a controversial topic, and as a YouTube verified guy, he's just doing it for the metrics. This is a career to him. And so his whole group here, you can listen to this, you can see the chat here. It's just a mockery of a false dichotomy that Mark is running. You had these two guys talking about simulation, but Mark's saying it's a simulation of a snow globe, and that's stupid. And this,
because of ancient cosmology.
And this guy was an idiot as well. This guy was an idiot. We'll debate any one of these characters anytime. That would be easy. But I think that's all we really need to go through from this hangout.
Mm-hmm. I think we did everything that we could talking about it. I enjoyed the time with everybody in the chat. And everyone that's not in the chat that still watched, and everybody in the future now. I'm super glad that you also tuned in and checked us out. Jason, we're going to continue to call people out for debates. We're going to continue to show you guys the truth, and it's up to you. It's up to you to verify it and do your own research after what we tell you. We don't have check marks. All we have is truth.
Yeah, this guy's verified. All right. Well, it was a fun discussion, and I appreciated all your insight on it, brother. Hope this helped people. Hope they can see that, Mark is a gatekeeper. So's Shaun Attwood. These are all gatekeepers. They understand we're in a simulation, but these will not be the guys that ever prove it to you. They will try to misdirect you as much as you can. Anything else, brother?
No, just that I completely agree with you. People that are in secret societies, like Mark's constantly talking about the Flat Earth Society and the Freemasonic Society or the Jesuit, any of them, they swore oaths to keep secrets from the population because knowledge is power. Understanding eugenics and where we are today with the new flu order is a very important thing that you should all do on the other side of the screen. Do your research as to what they believe, creating the master race, the Georgia Guidestones, all that needs to be taken into account. And if somebody won't tell you who they serve and how they got here and where they're going, you better question every single thing they say. Jason, where did everybody hear it, or do you want me to say?
You please, brother.
Only on the Yahawahashai News Network.
Yo, DJ, are you done mixing yet?
Your DJ has only just begun.